Same here. Oh, okay, my anti-clap filter has been turned off also.
Sounds good. 40?
Sure.
Hell yeah.
Had a brief panic moment because I thought maybe my audio device was wrong, but it's just doing the thing where Audacity today has decided it's going to record at 0.5 recording volume. But
oh, yeah, it's weird. Sometimes it like randomly adjusts the volume on the fly and you can't stop it.
yeah, it never used to do that for me. It's so weird. I didn't update it. It never used to really do that for me, or I never noticed it before, and I just started noticing it in the last month or two. But it's been fine. Like it's the waveforms I'm getting are fine. They're just smaller than usual, but it shouldn't really matter because you don't blast it at 95 decibels anyway. So
Yep. Yeah, and I normalize everything, so it's not that big.
Right, yeah. I just make sure it's got enough fidelity to make my voice come through.
Should we start?
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if there's any news that happened overnight, which I'm going to assume is no, but
I added one of my personal interest.
I'm sure I could log into New World real quick and let you know what the faction war sitch is since I went to bed at midnight last night.
Oh, Steam Next Fest started. That's worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do that over here before the Genshin people getting mad. Steam Next Fest.
I have thoughts about the Genshin thing, so I'm glad that you pulled that.
Really, I don't really have thoughts on it, but like other than the fact that people review bombing other games is profoundly stupid.
Yeah, well, you surprise, the Genshin community largely is awful. Yeah. It's a video game community and they suck. Weird.
Oh, there was an Xbox accessibility showcase that happened apparently, but I haven't watched it, and it's also about an hour, so can't say much about it.
I'm sure it's cool.
And it's nice that they have it.
And it's also like an hour, so good on them.
Yeah.
Right, so shall we get started?
I'm ready when you are.
Absolutely. Let me start the streamu. Goodbye. Or goodbye?
Goodbye.
Hello. There it goes.
Goodbye. Hello.
Goodbye.
Goodbye and hello. This is episode 192 of Gaming Chicks. I am your host for the day, Allison, here with Pat.
Hello.
And here with Alex.
Your partner's favorite midnight injury? I don't know.
Oh no. I was going to go with breakfast food because we're talking about breakfast food. Yeah, and that's more fun than having a injury in the middle of the night.
I have I have breaking news that needs to be resolved at the top of the podcast. So in case you're hearing this, you go deal with this right away. DJ Max Respect 5 or V, I've never known for sure if it's supposed to be 5 or V, is on sale right now.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
50 cents. You can go get arguably the greatest rhythm game.
I'm pretty sure
gonna buy some fucking DLC this weekend for DJ Max because
I do have it. I haven't played much of it, but I'm hoping that will be a whenever I get my Steam handheld. That would do you think that would work well on it? Yeah.
Most pros, from what I understand, play with controllers, so it should function. DJ Max is extraordinarily hard.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And personally, I like to play with a keyboard, but I mean, again, it's very popular on PS5, PS4, and lots of like super serious people who make YouTube videos and are as close to whatever pro scene that game has play on pad. So it should be playable on Steam Deck for sure.
The complete edition is like $30. It's not bad at all.
It's not actually everything in the complete edition, but it's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of deals.
That's the rhythm game grift there, where it's like where they can sell packs of stuff. I got an email. I haven't played this game in several months, but why am I blanking on the name? That other DJ game, the one where you're mixing Fuser. I got an email that was like, buy Fuser DLC maybe, and I was like, oh, I'm a little tempted actually, but
I really, really want an Easy Max, which is a DJ Max controller that's like designed for the game, but they're
I
so expensive.
Yeah,
$100.
Oh God, because I've definitely thought, I'm like, I would really love to buy to get into a rhythm game with like oh my God, I want it. I just Googled it and I want it so.
Yeah.
I want it so fucking bad.
Has
little turntables.
4-button mode. I don't even know what you use the turntables for.
I don't know, but I love it in theory.
It would be pretty cool, because the biggest difficulty I have with playing DJ Max is it uses smart keybinds, but because it's a keyboard, sometimes I hit the wrong key when I'm going super fast, and it would be nice to not even have the wrong key available and have just big, huge, chunky buttons like this instead to play with. But
yeah, no, I've definitely especially since I've been playing rhythm games literally every day since I got into my gacha games. I've been like, oh, I want to play more rhythm games, and I've thought about like, to what extent could I get like a fun controller, because I wish there were arcades near me that had a lot of the cool rhythm games, but they don't.
You can use of course you would use the turntables for Osu.
Oh yeah,
very good also.
Yeah, I've been wanting to play more Osu, but sadly there is no round one arcade near me, which typically carries decent Japanese rhythm games in it. So I'm like begging for them to come to Minnesota so that I can actually play some of those wild looking Japanese rhythm games. Anyways, we've played other games that aren't just rhythm games, and for here we're going to talk about them. Shit. I was just making jokes before the podcast.
We could talk about the disgusting lack of K-pop in the Spin Rhythm, which is another phenomenal rhythm game, custom song community. Every now and then I dip in and pick up to go to find some custom songs for it, and it's like no K-pop at all.
Which is
their custom song, which is absurd. It is a travesty.
I feel like K-pop is made for that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Like that's how I got into K-pop, was from playing Osu. There's so much K-pop in it.
Yeah, and it's like that's like in terms of pop music, like there's a lot of I feel like, I don't know, it not being in rhythm games is wild to me. That's not a more common thing. So that's I think they put the
League of Legends song, which I like a lot.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
Talk about Waffle House some more.
Sitting at a K-pop talking about sitting at a Waffle House talking about K-pop is absolutely a thing I have done in my lifetime.
That sounds fun though. Like
yeah.
I don't think I've ever been to a Waffle House. We don't have them here.
No, we don't have them here either. And, sad for me because I just like breakfast food a lot. And
reasonable. Denny's sucks, but
I don't know if I've ever been to. I don't think I've ever been to a Denny's.
Really, Denny's sucks, but
Denny's does suck, but you're right.
So like here, there's just not a lot of like breakfast diner places. It's just, I don't know why, but I think it's because like there's so many like Starbucks and stuff that people just, it's like Starbucks and McDonald's fills the breakfast hole for people, I guess. But so I appreciate that the Denny's that we have here, because it is a place I can like swing by and get an omelet and some hash browns, which isn't something I can get most places. There's also a pancake house I can do that at, but you know, sometimes honestly, I don't like the pancake house here that much. I like the chain, but yeah. Anyway.
If anyone ever travels to Victoria, BC, go to Blue Fox. That is a fantastic breakfast place.
The only thing that makes me just so interested in Denny's is some of those weird themed menus that they have.
Yeah.
To the point where I have read multiple articles and watched videos and even crowdfunded Matt Singer, who writes for Screen Crush, to eat at like weird themed restaurant menus. And he at one point went and ate every single item from the Fantastic Four movie menu. And it was great because it was rough. But anyways, they have some wild shit. You can get stuff. It's like a middle ground between Waffle House, which has very normal breakfast food, and like IHOP, which is like buck fucking wild and is like, do you want us to put Nutella and cream, use a syringe to inject it into your pancakes, and then cover it with like caramelized pecans or something? Like, that's like the IHOP will just like do stuff that is criminal. Denny's is kind of in the middle because they have like mostly normal food, and then also they have those weird menus. So yeah, I know that like when they had a menu based off of one of the Hobbit movies, and I think they had something like that where I was just like,
well, they're very good at shoveling enormous amounts of food onto your plate. So the whole like Hobbit second breakfast,
you know, of any restaurant, any franchise to get a menu based off of it, the Hobbit is pretty dang good.
Yeah.
For that, because the
Seattle just has Seattle proper has everything, but Seattle, the greater Seattle area, is missing breakfast places in a way that I think is like around Detroit. There's like, you can take it. I mean, we used to like argue on Saturday nights about where we were going to go to brunch, and not like through white people brunch, like brunch because we weren't going to be waking up until 11 a.m. kind of brunch. So it was brunch by default. And we would argue on Saturday nights between the like 20 to 30 breakfast places we could go to, and like go to a different place every week of the year practically. And so it's kind of disappointing how little breakfast is respected here.
Yeah. Denny's The Hobbit's An Unexpected Journey menu had Radagast's red velvet pancake puppies as one of the things on there, which is like donut holes, but pancakes made with white chocolate chips and sprinkled with powdered sugar and served with a side of cream cheese icing for dipping. And
Lord.
Who is it? Is it just children that eat that?
I don't know.
I couldn't eat that.
No, it's too sweet.
There's no way I could eat that now.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that? I don't know. Listen.
For me, like a donut now is like a few times a year event. And so I can't imagine getting donut holes made with white chocolate and
pancake and dip it in.
No, imagine that at 7 a.m.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just like it makes you want to throw up just thinking about it.
Anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure it tastes delicious.
Speaking of throwing up,
make you want to throw up. We've we played some video games this week, and that's theoretically what this podcast is about. Although I could honestly talk about breakfast food for ever because I love breakfast food.
Me too.
But anyways, it sounds like Pat, you've been playing a game that children might like in addition to those pancakes.
It could also make you throw up if depending on how strong your stomach is. If you put your face really close to the screen, it could maybe make you throw up because
cool.
It's got twisty tracks and stuff.
Nice.
It doesn't make it's a good game. It's not quite Trackmania. What if you took Trackmania and you mixed it with a little game called Burnout 3, and then you also shrunk it down to a 1/64th scale with tiny little cars that are things like dinosaur cars.
You mean like dinky toys? Got it.
Yeah, like the size of a matchbox, kind of. But instead, it was Hot Wheels. That's right. I played Hot Wheels. I played the hottest of wheels, Hot Wheels Unleashed, this week, and it's good. I'm happy to report.
Scuttlebutt around that game has been remarkably positive.
Yeah.
I don't want to oversell it to anybody because for being a $50 to $90 game, depending on which edition you purchase, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's like revolutionary. I think this game would have, if this game were in the like $30 to $40 range for its editions, I'd be sitting here telling you, holy shit, go buy Hot Wheels right now. Instead, I'm probably telling you can wait for a sale on it because it's a little thin, but it is very good. So it is what you would expect out of the, ideal Hot Wheels racing situation. You get your Hot Wheels. They're all actual Hot Wheels cars that have physical counterparts. I've mostly seen more recent cars. It's probably a licensing thing that was easier for them to license the cars themselves from Hot Wheels if they were newer, I would think, or maybe it's that they were using scans of the cars. I don't know. So they needed to get cars that they actually had available. But in any case, it's made by Milestone SRL, who actually make the MotoGP games, which are really excellent. And they make
those
Monster.
Have been around forever.
Yeah, they make the Monster Supercross games, which are really good. So typically they're making bike games, but they make really good stuff. Generally, very niche stuff, but really good. And they did a good job with the physics in this game. It's an arcade racer. You're racing on Hot Wheels track that is sort of laid about in physics and gravity defying ways. These various like kind of vaguely real world environments. Most of them are pretty real world. There's a garage that's kind of got crazy like neon everywhere.
Nice.
And
so it's kind of level lordy.
Yeah, and you get like there's like 6 environments, but you can do an unlimited number of track combinations between them. And what is so cool about it has a track editor, which is you can make anything you could see in the game, you can make in the track editor. What's so cool is like you can like loop tracks around the environment and stuff. You can weave tracks in between the bookshelves in this library in the college campus level and stuff. So you can create these like very cool, I'm putting a picture in our chat so you can kind of get an idea. You get these very cool track ideas where it's kind of like building actual Hot Wheels track, but like of your dreams, where you can say like, man, it would be really cool if we did a jump off of this table onto the floor and then it weaved under the couch and then it picked the track back up. You can do that stuff here. You can just sort of like build it into the environment however you want. I can also say this is probably one of the nicest looking games I have played.
Looks gorgeous
in a long time. I'm playing on a PC, and so I have everything maxed out. It unfortunately doesn't have full ultra wide support, so there are black bars on it, but that's fine. And it runs really well. It seems super well optimized, and the car, I mean, there are moments, sometimes it doesn't look, it looks very much like a video game, but it has its moments where it looks like photorealistic almost. When the lighting catches just right, and you're focused on the cars and the track, and the way that the cars over the course of a race like scuff up from bumping into each other, it looks like what happens when you play with Hot Wheels,
like real Hot Wheels, yeah,
each other and stuff. It's really cool. They don't have a damage model where the wheels are flying off or anything. Instead, it's like they tried to make them look like what they would look like if you played with Hot Wheels really hard for an afternoon or something. The same is true for the track. It'll get scuffed around the edges and stuff when you bump into it. It's like very, and it has a really good photo mode, so you can take advantage of like all of these moments in the race and stuff. The cars even have their manufacturing stamps on the bottom, so it'll have the little like copyright Hot Wheels, whatever year it was, and the name of the Hot Wheel, and it'll say made in Malaysia or wherever that particular model was made. So I think they're working with really high resolution detailed scans of the physical cars here. I think that's kind of how they achieved the fidelity that they have. And then also the materials are modeled really nicely too. There's a paint shop that's just like, it's just simple shapes and stuff. It's like a Forza paint shop, which of course people have then taken to make super crazy art already. But you can set different materials and it'll be like more matte or shiny based on the material choice you use for your car. So all that, the visual stuff, incredible. The levels and track design, really cool. The tracks are a little bit reminiscent of Trackmania at times because they have the crazy physics and stuff. There are tracks pieces that'll like let you go upside down by magneting you to the track. There's like just loops that rely on carrying speed into them to go through. And then the controls and physics of the driving itself, pretty good. I'm not going to say they're like revolutionary or something, but they feel a lot like Burnout in a good way, where you're still doing like power slides around corners to build a boost meter and then hitting the boost button. It's, I think, pretty good about punishing you for hitting the walls. You slow down a lot, so you can't just like ride the walls around the track, but it's also not so unforgiving that hitting a wall is like the end of your race or anything. And
it seems like good. Some of the like the spider that shows up at the very start, it'll just bring you to a full stop. So it's not afraid of making you stop.
Yeah, and you can get, the single player is basically just it's a map, but it's not when you're driving around. It's like if you laid out one of those like Hot Wheels play mats on the ground that has like a city on it, and you kind of scroll around it to go to different nodes on it, and those are the different races. It's very simple from a content perspective. There's time trials and races against other cars, which is kind of all it really needs. But the races are all on like obviously authored tracks, and some of them are boss races, and the idea is like the boss is like the physical piece, like the spider, or I did one that was a scorpion last night. And those, then once you beat them, you can add them to your track designs. So that part's pretty cool. And the cars themselves have different stats. They do feel noticeably different, but they feel different in the sense of like how Forza cars feel different, where you can tell this time this ice cream truck certainly does feel chunkier than the little fake F1 car facsimile that is a real Hot Wheels car but not a licensed Formula One car. But it's not like quite like a racing sim where the cars feel vastly different from car to car. There's kind of interesting, the boost mechanics are kind of interesting. There's cars that have like a tap boost where you fill up like ticks of boost, and then when you hit the boost button, it burns the whole tick. And you can't stop boosting until it's done. And then there's also cars that have just a meter that builds, and then you can boost as much as you want. So you can just like tap it and boost for a second, or you can hold it and boost for longer. It's kind of an interesting trade-off because a lot of the tracks they're not really suited for cars that have, if they're really twisty, you want to be able to have more fine control over when you're deploying the boost. So it is kind of cool because there's like, you might want to use a different car for different tracks for those reasons. Cars generally have like they might have really good braking and handling, but they're not necessarily going to have a ton of top speed. And then you can upgrade the cars too with a little gear currency that you spend. And then the biggest thing about this game, I think, is the car collecting. That to me is the kind of core. Like the racing is good, but it's because the cars are so charming that it's kind of the carrot on the stick to get you to keep playing. And the way you get the new cars is you get coins for finishing events, and then you use the coins to buy cars from a rotating shop of cars that changes every 4 hours. And I think I'm not sure. I think it's 4 hours of your playtime, because I didn't play for a couple days, and when I jumped back in, it still had like 23 minutes left on what it was when I quit last. So I'm not positive how that works. Maybe it's just a rotating, and I just happened to catch one that had cars I already bought in it. But you can also buy blind boxes of cars, but there's no way to spend real money on any of this. So it's all
yet.
Yeah, they sell DLC cars already though, so I don't think they're gonna put in buying. And if they did, it would be, there's no reason to spend real money on the cars at all. Like the whole point is collecting it, and the online for the game is not good. So it's not like it's fine if you want to just jump on by yourself and play with people. Like it's functional. There's matchmaking. I had fun driving online, but like you can't matchmake with your friends, and you can't have AI cars in private lobbies with your friends. So like,
weird.
You can do like 2 or 3 car races with your friends if you want, but the online functionality as a whole, there's no crossplay. So on PC, the online will be dead in a week. So like, it's definitely more of a single player game, and they would be mad to try to charge money for the coins. Now they do have a roadmap with a lot of like DLC packs of cars, and I think that's fine. It's like $5 and you get like 4 or 5 cars. That's totally fine, and it's clear what you're getting. If they ever do institute the ability to purchase the blind boxes, I would absolutely not do that. There are like 68 cars in the base game, so it doesn't take that much time, I don't think, to get them all. Like if you played for 20 to 25 hours, you could easily get them all. It's not like it's some insane grind to get the boxes. So yeah, but overall, I mean, it's a really fun game if it's what you're looking for, especially if you have people to play at split screen with. I'm sure it's really good on console. It's like the perfect option. It does get pretty hard if you turn the difficulty up, so you can have a lot of fun with it. I think I'm playing on medium because I tried the hard, and the hard was like difficult to even like get in the top 5. And there's an extreme difficulty as well, so it goes up and gets pretty challenging. So whether you're playing with kids or friends or just by yourself, I think there's a lot there, even in the single player. And they have stuff on their roadmap that they're working on in terms of like seasonal challenges and stuff. So, and I don't know how they would integrate those based on the menus right now. So it's possible that they're going to do work on the multiplayer stuff and make it a little more functional than just the quick races and the shitty private lobbies. So yeah, I don't know. It's very good. I'm pleased with it.
Good with room to grow.
Yeah, I would say if you're really into Hot Wheels, I'm really into Hot Wheels. I played a lot with them and have a lot of nostalgia for. I know most of the cars that are popping up in the boxes I'm pulling and stuff. And so I don't feel burned by the cost of it. I think if you're just looking for an arcade racer and you're not fond of the property, you can definitely wait. But it's good.
Yeah, it is somebody where I mean, I played with them a lot as a kid, but I'm definitely not as into it as you. I'm definitely considering waiting on a sale for it, because like just looking at the models of these cars, it is exactly the way that you remember. Even if they're not the cars that you remember, they're like, they have the same feel, because it is that really high resolution scan. So I'm like, just looking at these screenshots, it makes you feel nostalgic, even though I don't know these particular cars or
I think if the photo mode is something you're interested in messing around with, it could be worth it too, because it really is a fantastic photo mode and the game looks so good. So
the game is beautiful. And honestly, just some of those courses you showed me, like that I've seen, like looking at that and looking at the one that you sent over to us, it does look like, I don't know, how you felt playing Hot Wheels as a kid. If that makes sense.
There's moments like in that college campus. There's one track where I was like weaving around the library, and then before you know it, you're in an air vent around like close to the ceiling, and it genuinely made me smile to go like, oh my god, we're like inches from the ceiling, and then like, oh now we're in an air vent, this is so cool, and then you jump out of the air vent onto a chemistry table and stuff. That sort of stuff is really creative and cool, and knowing that cool. You can build even more creative and cool stuff with the track editor is exciting too. I have a project I might work on. The track editor is definitely built for working with a controller, which is a little bit frustrating, but it's fine. And I have I want to build Spa, which is it's my favorite real life racetrack in Hot Wheels, and see if it's any fun to drive it there. So there's definitely a lot of room with that as well.
Yeah, no, that looks like a really cool game, and it's one I'm pleased to isn't just a cash in on the brand. No. It looks like there's clearly a lot of love that was put into this game, which is great.
I think the price is justified by the fact that it's clear that they really did the licensing work here. Yeah. So it is a little thin from a content perspective, but it makes sense that it's a $50 game when you realize that it has stuff like the Snoopy car and like the DeLorean.
The Snoopy car is like really that. Cute.
It has like I really love the Koenigsegg Matchbox Hot Wheels cars that they've done. And it has some of those in there. So it's the cost clearly comes from the lengths they went through.
Oh, totally. And like looking
plumbed of the Hot Wheels catalog.
Yeah, and like you said, even if it's more recent cars, like looking at this, there's like a couple of them where I'm like, that looks exactly like a car I had. And that was like, yeah.
In a lot of cases, Hot Wheels will reissue cars, and so they have the date on them in this game as the most recent reissue of them, but they are classic cars.
Because there's like one where I'm like looking at these where I'm like, that looks like everybody had like that one car where you're like, this is the cool car.
Yeah, like Tomb Creeper, I want to say, was around when I was a kid.
Tomb Creeper is a great name.
I think it's called Tomb Creeper.
I wonder. Right? I wonder what got this game greenlit. Like Hot Wheels hasn't really had a presence in video games outside of that one Forza collaboration they did. So I wonder if was it purely that Forza collaboration that really got this off the ground?
I don't know. I mean, doesn't have anything to do with Microsoft. So
no, it doesn't. It's not on Game Pass or anything. But
yeah, I don't know.
It's really cool though.
It's cool
that this is.
Yeah,
it's a cool surprise because you look at the name Hot Wheels in a video game and you're like, oh, this is just going to be some crappy licensed garbage.
Yeah, like kind of budget title.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is going to be crummy. We're like even just looking at video and screenshots, you can tell like how much love was put into it, which is really cool. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And and there's something to be said about that. And there's something to be said about looking at all these cars and going feeling a level of nostalgia I did not expect to be feeling.
I definitely was like, what if I bought a couple of Hot Wheels?
Okay.
Oh no, it's working.
Store yesterday. I was like, they have decent selection at this store. I could just
if the Hot Wheels could work with Toys to Life.
So that's what I'm a little surprised about, and it's probably for the best. But I'm a little surprised this isn't a Toys to Life game, because if I were them, I would have been like, yeah, fucking put Hot Wheels with little chips in them, and then you stick them on your phone or something, and then that registers them in the game. But I mean, I'm glad they didn't go that route, because that way I don't have to buy hundreds of dollars of Hot Wheels.
100% that's insidious, and I would go from maybe I should buy this on sale to do I need to buy this and get a bunch of cars now?
Okay,
So go ahead.
So no, you first. Mine's kind of unrelated.
I was gonna say it is odd to me that there isn't a Toys to Life racing game. It's odd to me that we have that Ubisoft one that's like space shooter Star Fox, and we don't have a Toys to like a racing game that's Toys to Life. It's strange. I mean, I know that there was the Cars stuff for Disney Infinity, but
the whole trajectory of Toys to Life, like rise and fall of that, has been very strange.
I mean, the thing that they failed to
I was just gonna say, it was also like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
at this point. That Atlas or whatever game is the Ubisoft one was like 2 years ago. It's 3 years ago. So I know it because I bought it while I lived here.
It didn't seem as big as things like Skylanders though.
Which is funny because it's probably the best. Disney Infinity is the best one of those, but that Star Fox game is like the second best. It was actually a pretty good game. But it didn't fit the Toys to Life mold very well. The best way to play it is to buy the digital version that doesn't have any of the Toys to Life stuff. I think where they fucked up with Toys to Life is, and I think it'll come back someday, they focused on selling children's toys and games when tons of adults bought that stuff, understandably. I mean, I've been enamored with the Toys to Life concept every time one of those has come around. If they just were like, no, we're going to do like Gundam or like some brand that is like,
holy shit, you would,
adults.
that would,
I mean,
Warcraft,
like if they
not Warhammer.
Yeah, seriously.
Or, honestly.
Or if they did like Star Wars, but didn't make it like kids Star Wars, and instead it was just like, no, you just buy these like Star Wars figures. I mean, I would drop tons of money on that. If it was like my X-Wing stuff was instead Toys to Life game, I would spend more money on it.
Oh my God.
Tabletop game.
On the one hand, I want it. On the other hand, my wallet does not.
Oh yeah, sure.
You just raised that to me of like a really good Star Wars game with Toys to Life, and I'm like, oh my God, I would drop so much money on that video.
Speaking of really good Star Wars games, I may or may not have installed a community server version of Star Wars Galaxies.
Oh,
that
nice.
I'm looking forward to playing more of. I'll segue this into a game I played a lot of, but
I can't shame. I am considering buying KOTOR on my Switch, even though the remake's coming out, because I'm just like,
I have determined that I am becoming I'm about to look up whether or not Dark Age of Camelot is still running. It was running for a while. I've determined that in my old man days, I just want to play 2000s
old MMOs.
Old 2000s
MMOs.
That's what I want to do with sim race and play old MMOs.
I'm just getting into the gachas, which is another money pit.
I made
but you should get into the Matrix Online.
Fuck yeah, man!
Servers.
I legit kind of want to do that before,
especially
Matrix
ahead
started.
of the movie. Yeah,
I know.
They can't get it running is the problem. Like it's still in. The thing that's cool about this I'm only gonna talk about this for a second. I promise. I want to play it for like 20 minutes.
No, I think that's rad though.
Galaxies had 3 distinct eras. There was the pre-combat upgrade where Terras Kasi was totally fucking broken, and all PvP was people putting on brass knuckles and doing Terras Kasi. Yes, Terras Kasi, that was created for the PS1 fighting game.
Yes, it was.
It was one of the combat styles you could do in Galaxies, and so people just did that for PvP because it was way better than everything else. But that time, Galaxies not everybody did PvP because it was kind of just like a life sim. You just kind of did what you wanted. There were no goals really. You had plenty of cool combat like mechanics, and character development was amazing in that game, better than any MMO ever before or since. But there was no like end game. There wasn't like raids to do or whatever. It was just like if your end
Star Wars
end
Second
game,
Life.
Yeah, if your end game was bartending in Mos Eisley Cantina, that was what you did. You leveled up cooking and stuff, and that was what you did. You could be a dancer in Jabba's palace, and that was like you just leveled up dancing, and then people could come get buffs by watching you dance, and then they could go practice their end game of like hunting like banthas or something, and then they would mount up with their friends and go out and go hunting. Like that was the game. It wasn't there weren't a bunch of goals. Then there was a really cool system of Jedi. I won't get into it. they got pressure from the fan base and from Lucasfilm to make the Jedi thing a little bit easier to figure out. And then it sucked because everybody just made their whole deal figuring out how to become a Jedi. And that was like, that became the end game, and it sucked. And then they released a like thing called the combat upgrade, which fixed the balance in PvP. So Terrascasi wasn't too good. That was my favorite period of the game because it still had the cool character development stuff. It was a little shitty because there were a lot of people that just cared about grinding holocrons to become Jedi, but there were still, the majority of the player base was still pretty cool. And then they did this thing called new game enhancements, which just made it wow. It took out the cool character development and just made it a leveling curve from 1 to 80. And you just were like, instead of the intro being, you fucking loser, you're just in Mos Eisley, good luck. It was like, go to this space station and meet Han Solo, and then do a mission where Luke Skywalker shows up, and you can pick to be force sensitive when you make your character. And it had some really good content, but it sucked. That was when I bailed from it. Anyway, this community server I found called Restoration 3 is a post combat upgrade, pre new game enhancements server that they've done a bunch of dev work to balance and incorporate the new game enhancements content into the post combat upgrade gameplay systems. so
they're having their cake and eating it too.
Yes, and they reworked how you become a Jedi, but they won't tell anybody how to do it.
That's great.
That's
amazing. That's the best. That's fantastic.
I'm shocked that it has such a small player community. There's only like 70 people online at a time. I'm not sure if it's because they just launched in like May this year or what. They're not like technically at 1.0 because they've implemented all the content that was in when I played. They implemented, but they haven't finished implementing the new game engine content or enhancements content. Anyway, it's cool.
I wonder if that'll ever get taken down. Like,
I don't know
if Lucasfilms will be like, hey, fuck that.
I mean, we're a small enough podcast that I feel comfortable. I feel like we're still in the Yahoo Anime Rules sphere of, we can talk about things and it's not going to have repercussions. And they do like Twitch streams. It's not a secret. This server has a website. Their Discord is publicly advertised, but like, they don't even require you to have the game. You can just download the launcher from their website, which is not true of the other two major Star Wars Galaxies private servers. Those you have to have the discs,
the original.
So anyway, Restoration 3 seems cool. Some of the people in the community seem like they're probably turbo trash. I don't know, but there hasn't been anything blatantly offensive that I've seen in the Discord, having perused it the last few days.
Honestly, as a Star Wars fan, you have to kind of be like okay with being like, well, nobody, not necessarily with people being terrible, but with like, I don't know if they are, but they aren't being terrible now. So I need to like kind of deal with that.
Yeah. And the nice thing about Galaxies, I would never interact with people in that Discord, because one of the things about Galaxies that was kind of magical that would make it hard to reproduce today is you didn't have Discord and stuff. You could exit the game and go to the forums and make a forum post, but like most of the communication about the game happened within the game, which was important because there were things like you could play a Wookiee. Wookiees have way better stats than everybody else because they would because they're incredibly smart and incredibly strong and enormous, but they can't speak basic. So people could only understand you if they knew Wookiee. So like it made getting groups really hard because nobody could understand you except for some people. And then you would find the people that could understand you and then add them to your friends list, because
you'd have to get interpreters. That's great.
Yeah. So that kind of shit doesn't work if you're just joining Discord voice channels.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I wonder if people got around that with like GameSpy back in the day.
Point being, now that in this server like this, I'm not going to talk to people in the Discord anyway, because I only want to communicate in the game, and you kind of have to come to it on its own terms to do that. So anyway, Galaxies is, if you hadn't played it then and you downloaded it now, you would take one look at it and go like, Pats thinks this is cool because it is archaic.
I know, but the way that you're describing it as a Star Wars fan, I'm like, well, that's what
you should check it out.
Want.
I mean,
I should.
It's not going to do. It'll run on anything. That's for sure. And
yeah.
And I got it. It works. It has like ultra wide support somehow. So I cranked everything up and was like, holy shit, this looks incredible. And my partner was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, okay, compared to how it looked on my computer in 2005, this looks
incredible.
And you know, it's I can give you some tips about how to play it, because it is definitely a challenge. There's a learning curve, but
just the way that you described being able to, you know, just the wide variety of stuff that you were able to do, like including being a Mos Eisley bartender. I'm like, oh, could I get real deep into role playing as B. Arthur's character from the holiday special?
You could, and it does stuff like it did. Like there was nobody who was this is all going to dovetail into the other thing I have to talk about, and then I'll shut up. But you couldn't be someone who was like a crafter, gatherer, or adventurer, because gathering materials for people to use for crafting, it was like you would spend hours prospecting out where the best location to put an extractor is, and then you would plop down the extractor, and that would be your night of play. Was, oh, I fended off some Tusken Raiders and found a place to put this moisture farmer, so now I have it there, and then tomorrow I'm going to go harvest it and hope that it didn't get destroyed by another player, and then I'm going to take these to the auction house and sell them the moisture to someone who's making drinks to sell to people at the bar. And the person who was making drinks to sell to people at the bar didn't have time to go farm moisture because they were spending hours on cooking stuff and trying to get the right buffs on them and stuff like that. So it was just a different world, because you totally could play the whole game without ever picking up a blaster if you wanted to, and that was a viable way to play it. Unlike modern MMOs, such as the game that I spent an inordinate amount of time playing this week, which is the New World, or the new from world. Amazon Games, New World.
Wow.
And I wanted to say up front that one, there's the two huge elephants in the room about this game. First is that it is an Amazon game, which anything I have to say should not be interpreted as defending Amazon about this game, because
and I feel like we could put that as a disclaimer to this entire podcast. Like nothing we say near is defending Amazon.
I have I've seen, you know, this game, understandably, not telling people to not shit on it, because I get it. Like shitting on Amazon is plenty valid, and they certainly do market it as the game where you can play as a conquistador, which, holy shit, what the fuck. But I mean, what I would say to keep in mind is, if your primary beef with this game is it was made by Amazon, and then you're going to, in your next tweet about a guide that you can use to maximize the new boost functions on Twitch, like, just try to be aware of how all of these things interact. I think Amazon fucking sucks. There's also, I mean, I don't know anybody who worked on this game, but I've kind of tangentially have friends who are acquainted with stuff, and it sounds like the development of this game was pretty okay. I mean, I'm sure there was crunch, and I'm sure there was all the standard industry stuff, but it doesn't sound like it was like the kind of thing that gets a Jason Schreier article made, which is a shitty bar to clear, but hey. This team seems weirdly invested in the community from what I've seen from the player side. Like there's a lot of communication with players. It almost feels like an indie MMO, or like mid-tier MMO, not a game made by Amazon, which is strange. But, you know, still, if you are someone who can't stand to play something made by Amazon, I totally get it. And I have been there in the past, and frankly, the pandemic has just kind of broken me. And sometimes I give them money and don't feel great about it, but it's like, it's a hell world out there. So anyway, the other big thing with this game is the like weird colonial marketing and the fact that it's called New World,
which is very loaded,
immensely so. And it's hysterical to me that they went this route, because if they had simply called it Aeternum, which is the name of the island in the game, and made the art like the vast majority of the gear in the game, which is cool looking, but ultimately fairly generic, like leather armor and swords and stuff, I don't think it would have any of this controversy at all. Instead, they chose to call it New World and put the bad guy, which he looks like a conquistador, on the cover of the game, which is like, I don't know what possessed whoever came up with marketing for this game to do that, because it's like, I'm not about to tell someone who is like, I can't fucking believe people are playing this game, holy shit. I'm not about to tell them they're wrong, because the marketing does look this way, but when you play it, like, there's the only real colonialist activity or whatever in the game. I mean, the premise for this game, I should say, is this dude gets a map to go to this island that someone says has treasure on it, and then there's a magic storm around the island, and you're on his ship crew to go treasure hunting on this mysterious island. There's a magic storm around the island. It turns him into this bad guy conquistador dude. I haven't seen him since the beginning, so I don't even know if he ever shows up again. But then the island, it turns out, is like magic, and there's this corruption running through it. There are no indigenous people on the island, as far as I know. I've met one person who appears to have been from there, and he's been blending in with people, and it's a big, like, there's a whole storyline with, like, there's this magic corruption, and it causes people to turn into zombies, which is a lot of the enemies you fight. And he's like a member of an ancient order that fought the corruption, but otherwise there's no native motifs. They don't do like any kind of art that is like drawing on indigenous island cultures or Native American culture. They're like, I have a skin for a chest armor that's like leathers that looks like something you would make on like by hand, so I could see an argument that it has some vague similarity to like certain Native American garments, but like it's not even like a Horizon Zero Dawn kind of similarity. All of the aesthetic I've seen so far in this game is very much like medieval European, or like coats and swords and boots and stuff. Like, you could make, I think there's something that we should unpack in media in general about how things like tricorn hats and like British military uniforms from the 17th and 18th century do evoke aesthetics that are painful for people, in the same way that things like, a swastika can be painful for someone. And we should probably take the same care with some of those motifs that in America we really like to play with that are colonialist. But in the context of this game, while that is still true, I think like what's happening here in the gameplay is it's far less problematic, in my opinion, than something like Monster Hunter World.
Okay, I was literally just going to ask you about that. If that was, as something where when I played it, it's like, ooh, this is feeling like kind of sketchy.
Yeah, and in New World, it's like the idea is that like everybody got trapped there because of this magic storm. So yeah, there are like towns and settlements and stuff, but it's sort of out of necessity because nobody can leave. And it isn't like, how are we gonna, let's chop down all this forest to make houses or something.
It's not like we need to tame this wild land in this new world. Right.
Not really. I mean, I haven't paid a ton of attention to the writing because it's mostly whatever, but it's not offensively bad. It's just fine. It's MMO dialogue text.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that the actual content of this game is like problematic in the way that even some kind of more recent usage of these motifs and aesthetics has been. It's certainly not Greedfall, where there's like whole storylines about like taming native people or whatever. That's it's just not dealing with those tropes, and that's why I think it's funny to wrap back around. If they had just leaned into the more pirate side of the aesthetics, because there's a lot of pirate stuff in there, and called it Aeternum, there wouldn't be controversy about it. There probably should still be, because again, that's problematic in its own way, and anytime you use any of this kind of imagery, it should be something we talk about. But it's, I think, really the like, let's put the conquistador helmet on the cover and call it New World was a huge L for them.
You know, this might be like going kind of conspiracy-y. Do you think it's possible that they were seeking that kind of like controversy?
I wouldn't put anything past Amazon's marketing teams.
Like, hey, we're big, but we're new at the games. Let's call it this, have this that way, like market it so that people will think about it a lot more than they might otherwise think about.
I think it's probably
I don't know,
ignorance, but
probably that.
It's probably ignorance, but I had that like when you mentioned that I had that like gut
it is weird
feeling.
It is weird that they call it New World too. I don't know. I wonder if maybe the other thing is that at some point in its development, it was a game about like, what if America was actually magic, and there was like, what if you befriended Native American tribes or something, and maybe people did say, yo, what the fuck? And
some developers were like, hey.
And so maybe then they refocused the game and didn't end up changing the name. I don't know. I do know that it's a silly name because it's, I don't know. There's no,
I mean, you say that, but it looks like I'm going to be really hyped for a game called Project Triangle Strategy. So like, I totally understand there are a lot of games where they get the name at first and you're like, we'll just keep it.
Yeah. Anyway, so the gameplay part.
Yeah. So is it good?
I like it. I'm really into a lot of what it's doing. It is a game that is heavily about crafting, and it is about PvP. Those are the two core parts of it. There's a lot of PvE content. You're doing a lot of very MMOs quests. The quests suck in terms of design. The combat, I think, is pretty fun. So that's what keeps me engaged. And the quests are definitely like it's kind of like you just zen out and just go do them. But it's definitely, so far I've seen 2 quests. We need you to kill 10 of these zombies and collect samples from them. Or we need you to go to this place where the zombies are and loot the chests there to find stuff. And sometimes you have to do a quest where you have to kill zombies and loot stuff to find in the chests.
That's those innovative.
The quests they're incredibly boring. But again, the combat's pretty fun, and some of the enemy design is pretty good in terms of their patterns and mechanics. And the combat has like you can only play it on mouse and keyboard. There's no controller support. So I'm pressing the shift key to dodge. I'm pressing right click to block. And then you have 3 abilities, and you left click to do your basic attacks. There's a bunch of different weapon types. I'm playing with the rapier and with a musket. So I kind of shoot them from range and then switch to rapier when they get close. And I'm finding the combat pretty fun and engaging. It's very fun when it comes to the PvP, which is a core element of the game. You basically all of the zones, there's no load screens between them. It's all open. But all of the zones have a central town, and you do PvP quests where you turn your flag on for PvP, and as an attacking faction, you're going around to different locations to do these PvP quests that you can pick 3 up at a time of. So typically you're getting in a big group of people and everyone's going out to do these quests. That fills up a control meter. The other team who's defending can take PvP quests, and it'll send them to the same areas to essentially stop you from completing your quests. And there's a push-pull tug of war there. When an attacking faction does enough objectives, and there's a little meter to show you, then one of the guilds in the faction can pay an insane amount of money, in-game money, not real money, to declare war. And then the next day at a chosen time, it'll be like 8 p.m. tomorrow, meet me behind the Waffle House if you want to ass kicking, basically, because that guild who paid gets to choose 50 people to fight against the guild that currently owns the town's handpicked 50 people to do a like instanced PvP battle, and whoever wins gets control of the territory. And it's there's more depth there. There's modifiers, like there's a fort in every region that can constantly be changing hands, and whoever controls the fort gets faster influence gain. There's also a like outpost rush mode that seems a little bit like WoW Battlegrounds that you can get at level 60 when you hit the cap. I don't know what those are yet, obviously, because the leveling in this game is very much like old school WoW pace. I played probably, it's like a level an hour, maybe. I played probably not, I think I probably played like 15 or 16 hours of it this week, and I'm level 24. So pretty slow grind for the leveling. But yeah, the PvP is fun. It's the stuff like the ranged weapons, like the musket is like, you can shoot it really far. So you can sight in a player enemy that's like very on the edge of your vision and then pop them, and it'll do a satisfying amount of damage. But it's still not like, none of the PvP is like, oh, I killed you in 2 hits. It's still very much like WoW PvP, where you're like actually having time to react and stuff. I sniped somebody who was fishing last night, just was like, fuck you, dude, hiding in the bushes, and shot him. And then he turned around and totally just clapped me, even though I was a level higher than him. So there's a lot of room for skill to come into play with the PvP. And that stuff is fun. The crafting is really good. They have a lot of quality of life features. Like when you craft a stack of something, you don't have to sit there and wait for your character to keep crafting it like you do in other MMOs. It just says like, congrats, you made 150 stone blocks and you gained 40 stone cutting skill when you did it.
Oh, that's good.
And the crafting of like gear, the game is clearly built around making sure that the best gear is always crafted. So it's not a game with like an end game raid where you're going to get best in slot stuff. Instead, it's like you choose what materials you want to use when you make a piece of armor, and then based on what modifier materials you use, it has different perks. And then you can also roll a random perk on it by spending a currency, and again, in-game currency. And so gear is always going to be like, you can spend this ultra rare modifier to get the exact thing you want, but maybe you don't roll the right perk on it kind of situation. So there are going to be cases where you make like, holy shit, I made the best thing possible for me, and no one else has it because it's really hard to get, but comparatively nobody else has it. So yeah, all that stuff is good. I think it's a game for, you have to kind of be into sandboxy stuff, because again, the quests are not good. So if you want to play like a questing MMO, it's not the one for you. A friend of mine was like, I can't believe we can't share quests and do quests easily together, and then didn't get the game because of it. And I think that they made the right call, because if that's what you're looking for, it's not really a game about that. The faction chat is just a hive of degeneracy. Like when it comes to, it's like Baron chat times 10. But it also has its moments that are charming too. Like I ran around defending a fort with I Stay High and Pop Smoke Woo for an hour the other night, and it was a very relaxing experience. I'm playing on a East Coast server with some friends, so it's around 9 p.m. my time that like a lot of the younger people log off, and it's just people who will say like, I just smoked an enormous amount of weed and now I'm going to go hit trees in the forest for an hour, which is a little more the vibe I'm looking for. But yeah, that stuff is all fun. It has been the subject of ridicule because they have an incredibly crazy server queue problem right now that is ridiculous.
Especially for Amazon.
Well, the problem is that I can see why people wouldn't really get looking in. It's not server capacity. I'm sure they could make these servers hold an unlimited number of people and they'd be fine because it's Amazon. But the problem is this game world is not enormous. It feels big because like I've played, like I said, for like 15 to 20 hours and I've only seen maybe a quarter of it. So it's not like it's small and constrained, but it's like big in the way that like GTA 5 or Red Dead 2 is big. It's not like WoW big where there's dozens and dozens of zones and so people can spread out. Instead, it's like last night I stood in an area with about 15 other people all waiting for a boss to spawn, and half the people didn't get credit for the kill when it did spawn because they didn't get a chance to get a hit in while the rest of us wailed on it. So like increasing the server capacity so 10,000 people can connect to that world is going to exacerbate those problems. And it's going to mean that like the beautiful forests that they generate just aren't going to exist because everyone's going to just cut them down constantly because there's too many people and not enough resources. So that's kind of the problem with server capacity is the game servers are just, they're balanced to maybe have around 2,000 people in the game at any given time. And with that kind of level of players, it's great. The towns feel like they're bustling, but you can still go out into the woods and you're kind of alone hunting rabbits. But like, I also spent a half an hour trying to kill elk the other night because there were 20 of us standing around, and every time an elk spawned, everyone was mad dashing to be the one to kill it. And that's not fun. And it would only be worse if they just opened the floodgates more. But the problem is they didn't cap the number of characters that can be created per server. So you have 10,000 people trying to get into a server that's balanced for and set a capacity around 2,000 players. My server has had it a little better than some places, but it's still like an hour to an hour and a half queue to get in at the end of the day. If I want to log in. Since I'm working from home, it means I can boot it up and hit the queue when I know I have about an hour of work left, and it works out okay. But it's not good. And I was with them the first day because like it's launch day. Of course, there are going to be issues, and I was just impressed that it was really stable once you got into the game. But last night was still an hour and a half queue, and their only solution to the problem seems to be to pop a message up that's like, we opened another 30 servers, go join one of those, but there's no way to take your character there as of right now. So at this point, I'm not going to leave the server I'm on because I don't want to start over. And they've said they're going to do free character transfers to try to help alleviate it. But at this point, I'm invested in the narrative of like, oh, this one person was being a dick in faction chat last night, and everyone was like retaliating, and now I gotta know what goes down when they log on tonight. And like that kind of, or like, man, Rehab Nomads has been holding 2 zones, and tonight they're trying to go for a third. I wonder what's going to happen. Like those stories are things I'm invested in, even if they're stupid a lot of the time. And I don't want to like go to a new server at this point because I recognize people and guilds and stuff in the one that I'm in. So I don't know how they're going to solve that problem. Presumably it'll solve itself as people lose interest after the first couple of weeks of the game being out, but we'll see.
50. So that is New World, which is less problematic than it sounds. Alex.
And I should stress too, like I'm a white person living in America. So my identification of the problems the game has aesthetically and internally is not going to be of the same value as somebody who actually studies and lives with an experience of, you know, being someone who's been colonized. So I would encourage people to keep an eye out.
For sure.
For people like, you know, Dia Lucina and other folks out there who have a much better perspective on it than I do. I'm certainly not trying to defend it.
Yeah. No.
I just think it's stupid that they
that they named it. They decided to do this that way
on the cover. It's a huge shooting yourself in the foot moment, so it's funny. Also, I would say if you're interested in this game but you're a little on the fence, wait before you buy it, because it does count your Steam refund timer down while you're sitting in that queue. So you are in the game while that's happening, so
Anywho, Alex, you played a few hours of a game that Andre likes, and Andre's here, so
so I don't even know I don't know if we can talk that much about it. Pat, I don't know if you played it. Maybe you did, but it is one shooter called Cruelty Squad.
Oh yeah, I played a bunch of Cruelty Squad.
Yeah,
I played almost the whole game.
Yeah, I know Andre is pretty fond of it.
It's a great game.
It's weird. It's like the best way I could think of to describe it is just aggressively abrasive in every way possible.
Absolutely.
Like it's just supremely abrasive. It's like the audio, it's grating. Like the music is grating. The visuals, they're awful, but it's all very deliberate. Like the
menu is atrocious. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I was totally lost the first time, and I didn't even realize there was like a tutorial level until after, because I had just been clicking around the UI and just immediately went into the first level and just like had no idea what I was doing, because like it doesn't provide any tooltips, it doesn't provide any direction. And then it turns out that first level is kind of like Deus Ex in that there's multiple ways you can approach the level and approach the goal, but none of it makes sense at first.
I mean, like, you can
go for it.
Have you gotten into the like upgrades and stuff at all yet?
Yeah, I'm on like the 5th level now.
Yeah.
Like if I say the police station, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but so that's where I am now. And yeah, just everything about that game. In the first 20 minutes, I was like, "This is fucking terrible."
Oh yeah.
And then I stepped away from it, and then I came back and tried again. I was like, "Okay, I'm starting to understand it. Okay, now reloading makes sense." And I'm no longer just trying to hit R.
You have to like hold down the right click button and then dip
move
the
your
gun
mouse
down,
up and down and up.
To reload it.
Yeah. And just like there's just so much stuff about it that makes no sense. But once you get over that initial learning curve of just like what the fuck is this, then it's actually not too bad. Then it's like you can kind of jump in and like I can't really play it for more than like a 20 or 30 minute session because it is so abrasive. But
I found that I've like kind of sunk into its vibe at a certain point and was like, this fucking sucks and I fucking suck. And then I was like able to play it for long sessions. I think my longest session was probably about 30 minutes, but like it's good, but it's also terrible. But I think the terrible part of it is deliberate. So I respect it.
Yeah, just looking at, I mean, even if you just look at the graphics of it, you're like, yeah, this is deliberate.
When I saw that people were so incredibly positive for it, I bought it and then jumped into it, and I assumed it was a bit. Like I assumed that something was gonna it was gonna change at some point. The visuals were gonna change, and the music was gonna change. All this stuff was going to like roll over into being something else that was like almost Frog Fractions-y. Sure. It is not a bit. That is the game. It is and it all kind of fits once you start to click with its vibe. Like it's a game where you can have like holes installed on your back that shoot out literal shit to make you dash around, and stuff.
And like, it leaves a trail of crap behind you.
Yeah. It is a game that is like, it is like violently, aggressively anti-capitalist, and it fucking like it's extremely nihilistic, and it hates everything. It is like very grungy. I mean, in some ways, it's like the most punk game I've ever played. Not that I think punk is bad.
Kind of in the Umurangi Generation sense.
Except Umurangi Generation is like beautiful. Like it's simple visually, but it's also, in my opinion, like astonishingly gorgeous at times. When you catch the light the right way and you line people up, and the people in it are like such a diverse mix of like corporate drones that are trying to survive the end of the world, and people that are experiencing art and and dancing in the street and stuff. Cruelty Squad is like everything's fucking trash.
Yep.
It's just garbage.
Yep. It's great.
Yeah. I think it is. Yeah.
Also, like, the thing that blew my mind was just in the first level, especially, is just how fast you will die. Like, if you don't notice someone next to you that has a gun, you will blow up in about half a second, maybe 1 second. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool.
It's like an immersive sim, but also like Unreal or something, or I guess Quake.
I don't know if I'd say Unreal. It doesn't. The shooting is not particularly good.
Yeah, but I'm not so much saying that. It's more like it moves at an incredibly fast pace. It's not like immersive sims. It's often like, I'm going to sneak through this vent and then plan out this whole thing. This game is more like you just sprint through the levels to see the structure of them and then get your head blown off. And then the next time you sprint through the levels, you generally know where stuff is. So you are like spinning around corners and shooting, like full autoing a room full of people and just blowing them away so that then next time they can't kill you.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, you learn the layouts. You learn that, oh, if I shoot that toilet, it explodes into a gas cloud, and if I step in that, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, it is just a game of learning what is going on. Like the second level with the car, if you know what I mean, where vaguely, all of a sudden it's just like a massive, huge, enormous level, and there's like a billion secrets that you can find.
Oh yeah.
Like that kind of stuff it's really fascinating. So
yeah,
I don't know if I would say I'm in love with it, but I get it, and I'm gonna try and finish it if I can. But boy howdy, Cruelty Squad is certainly a thing.
Yeah, it's definitely something that when I played it, I was just like, wow, this it's so cool that we live in a world where someone can make this.
Oh, absolutely. Like no indie studio would ever make this. And you would never ever see anything even remotely close to this in the AAA space. So
yeah, this is a couple of people going, hey, I got an idea, and it turns out it's fucking rad. It's not always nice or like give you as this thing that gives you positive feelings, but I kind of dig that about it, and I wish we had more games that challenged. I wish we had more games that weren't fun, I guess.
I wouldn't say this is not fun though.
No. This game is fun to play, but I wish we had more games that were deliberately shitty in different ways to be interesting, I guess, is more what I mean.
Yeah. I like one of the ways that you get health back is just by eating the bodies of the people you killed. And then you can potentially absorb their kidneys and livers and stuff like that. For what purpose, I don't know yet. Maybe that becomes clear.
Them, I believe. There's a whole market.
Well, there's the stock market.
There's a stock market, and it involves also there's fishing in the game.
Fish,
I don't know if you found that. Yeah.
No, I haven't found it yet, but I've seen the menu item that just says fish.
And there's also like the stock market will react, I think, to things like if you use certain guns a lot, then the company that makes the ammunition for that gun stock will go up and stuff. It's weird. There's a lot of weird little mechanics like that. And bizarre is a good way to describe that game.
So
it is,
to phrase it another way, there's a lot of systems in play in this game, like a lot of them, and a lot of them you don't really see them surface in ways that make sense. But like if you think of a big game, let's talk Assassin's Creed or something, and you have or like God of War, you know how on God of War they had one guy to one team that purely worked on the axe mechanic and the throwing and the pulling back of it. Like they had people dedicated to these mechanics, and it's like, okay, we have a curated list of mechanics that, like, maybe Assassin's Creed, you have one team working on the upgrade tree and like what those upgrades do, and like one on the combat, one on blah blah blah. But like they're working within like a pretty realistic space. This is more like they just tried a bunch of different things, like just enough so it works, and then they'll see if they kind of work together, but it ends up being relatively balanced. It's it's less about hyper focusing on getting like one or two systems really polished. It's more like, how many systems can we throw into this thing to make it as chaotic as possible, but still be relatively cohesive? Like, that's kind of what Cruelty Squad is like.
And I think for certain people, like, I would much rather play Cruelty Squad for 25 more hours than replay God of War.
Sure.
Like, I think for certain people, that kind of shit is going to hit way more than the super polished AAA approach. But you're totally right that it is a game of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, literally
in some cases.
Yeah. Anyways, Cruelty Squad, maybe play it. I don't know. It's weird.
It looks very weird, but it's very intentionally, and it looks very intentional. So it is interesting. I don't know if I'm going to pick it up, but it's one of those games where I'm like,
I actually think you might like it.
I actually think you might like it too, because you like
really cool.
You like the Sludge Life and that whatever that gorilla game was, the
Ape Out.
Ape Out, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, I looking at the graphics, I definitely had Sludge Life vibes of it.
Yeah,
and I do really love Sludge Life.
I think you might actually pick up what it's laying down pretty directly.
Yeah.
I would just
Probably
wait for a sale on it, so in case, or to refund. I don't know.
I'm probably going to wait for a sale just because like there are too many games, and my game that I'm going to talk about for like 5 seconds is in a series where I just spent way too much money on games in that series this week. So, I need to wait for sales.
Cruelty Squad is on sale, but it's on sale until October 8th.
Oh.
And it's only 20%. So, you can always wait for
maybe wait a little bit longer.
Yeah,
but I appreciate games that do interesting stuff. So I guess maybe that is something that
I think you would appreciate that about it. And you have like a separate mouse you can use with your PC, right? Yeah. So as long as you have a mouse, it'll run on a laptop, no problem.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and my laptop generally is pretty not like it runs pretty okay. So yeah, no, I've put it on my Steam wish list. God, just watching it in action is just fucking wild.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but it's very, I am just glad that games like this exist, even if I haven't played it yet, just because I do. Yeah.
Sorry.
I'll go for it.
Pat, one question. There's a mechanic in there. I've not really known what it means. So, sometimes you'll just walk into a room or you'll be walking around the world and then suddenly there's like an eyeball on the left side of the screen that's looking around. Do you know what that means?
I think that tells you people are watching you.
Oh,
I think that's the stealth indicator, where if you are hidden, then the eyes closed. And if you're or not there, and if people can see you, then it's the eyes open. Because the stealth system in that game is relatively deep is maybe the wrong word, but like it has a real stealth system. It's like fairly robust. I think you can like shoot out lights and stuff like that.
Oh really? I haven't tried.
I think things like darkness and stuff do conceal you at different ways and things.
Because I know I know in that second level when you go into basements, it just goes completely dark.
Yeah, and you can get like night vision as an upgrade. I want to say
you can get night vision. I should get that because one time I got basically lost in a basement, and the only way to light my way around was to shoot. And then I was really running low on bullets, so I was like, "Fuck, am I gonna have to reset this level if I can't get out?"
Yeah, I think there is light and darkness plays into the stealth mechanics, but I'm not positive about that, so don't quote me.
Again, the mechanics are not clearly explained most of the time, but again, deliberate.
I like that the 4 highest tags for it on Steam are FPS, capitalism, surreal, and immersive sim.
Yeah.
Those are all pretty accurate. Yeah.
I'm just seeing it's like FPS, capitalism, okay, surreal, immersive sim. Like,
I mean, your role in this game is you're like a hitman that kills people for a corporation,
like corporate hitman. Yeah.
Yeah, and your backstory is that you were like a PMC who got discharged, and
where did you see this backstory?
Oh, there's an intro video. I
there
forget
is,
how I triggered it, but
yeah, like it's you can anytime you launch the game, it'll start, and then there's an option to turn it off if you want. But
yeah, you're like naked in your apartment, and you get a phone call that's like,
that
you want this job?
Says, "Did I wake you from your depression nap?"
Yeah.
Oh. Mood.
It's like a mattress on the floor and a television.
Yeah, and he's just standing in the shower, staring at the wall. It's great.
Yeah, it's a good game.
It's strange. I don't think it's for everyone.
No,
but I would say
absolutely
like
not.
Pretty unequivocally, it's definitely not going to be for everyone. But I think if you get it, you get it.
This is not picking on anybody. Or not picking on Sam. I don't think Sam would like Cruelty Squad.
No, Sam would despise Cruelty Squad because also it's kind of punishing. Like it's kind of hard at points.
Yes, yeah, it is.
Yeah, no, it looks. I mean, I feel like it's one of those games though where if you look at just even screenshots, you get the vibe that they're going for. Yeah. Like, I mean, you're like obviously there's a lot more nuance to it, and there's a lot more that I haven't seen since I haven't played it, but. It's one of those games where you know if you kind of can gel with that sort of kind of weirdness.
I don't know that I would call any part of Cruelty Squad nuanced, but yes.
Yeah, it's kind of that like subtlety is dead.
Yeah.
True. Okay, sure. That's fair. That's fair.
But I get what you're saying.
Yeah. No. I mean, I get that there's more than just what you can see in the screenshots. I'll put it that way.
It looks like a trash game that someone made in their free time in like 20 minutes. But yeah, it is more elaborate than that.
That's another thing that I really do love though is people that take the kind of retro aesthetic and go wild places with it. What was that game called? Why am I blanking on the name of that game?
What's it about? What is it? Jazz punk?
No, the one where you dreams computer. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Deus Ex?
No, the one where you're like a moderator in your
Hypnospace Outlaw.
Yes,
big Hypnospace Outlaw vibes. Yeah.
And it's like I love games that use that retro aesthetic, but for kind of like interesting purposes, and acknowledge that a lot of stuff from that era looked frankly like garbage, but in like an interesting way.
This game could take place in the world of Hypnospace Outlaw easily.
Yeah, like if you, this is the world when you roll your chair away from the desk of Hypnospace Outlaw.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh shit. Okay, you guys have convinced me.
But with a lot of violence.
I love Hypnospace Outlaw, and I kind of need to go play it again because
I would recommend to anybody the PC Gamer review of this game is really well written and just a good piece of games criticism.
I haven't read that.
Yeah, it's a good it's
I saw a headline that from Collider where that you might agree with, where it's more cyberpunk than cyberpunk, basically.
Kind of,
absolutely. Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
It's great that this game came out after Cyberpunk 2077 was a mess, because this game gets what that game should have had, some of the elements of this game for sure. And this game is actually turbo anti-capitalist, like fuck off and doesn't care who knows it game, to Cyberpunk's like very sanitized look at the concept and at anti-capitalism,
which is such a wild thing to make a sanitized look at is Cyberpunk. Like
the PC Gamer tagline is "Cruelty Squad is what a great immersive sim sees before it dies." And I think that is
I love it.
I'm looking at the PC Gamer review.
Damn it, you guys have convinced me on this game, and like I didn't think it would be for me.
When I take out the mayor of Cancer City in that mega mall for the 4th time, it sends the police cyborgs with machine gun arms into a violent frenzy. Yeah, and then they just start mowing down the citizens and like, yep.
I think I love this line from it instantly. Cruelty Squad is Deus Ex if it were made today, the natural product of furious people exhausted by wealth inequality, police militarization, and the stubborn structures that keep humanity rolling towards total annihilation of the soul. Yeehaw.
Yep.
It's
basically
really good.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I need to read that, and then I will need to play this game.
Pat, did you know you can aim down sights?
Yeah.
I found that out. I found that out just randomly hitting a button. I was like, wait, you can aim down sight and like you can snipe?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, Cruelty Squad. It's weird. Play it, I guess.
Cruelty Squad,
or don't.
it's weird.
It's weird and it fucking rules. It's probably one of my favorite games this year, actually.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's a good game that's a bad game, but it's not. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
Yeah. It's an interesting space because I think movies that are made to be bad or books that are written to be bad usually suck.
Like, oh, absolutely. And not in a fun way.
Yeah, there are bad games and bad movies and bad books that are fun. That are unintentionally really fun, even though they suck. This is a game where everything about it is intentional and parts of it really suck, but it works still.
Yeah.
And it's still really fucking good.
Don't know if there's any movie I don't know if there's any movie that has attempted to be so bad it's good that actually is so bad it's good. Like this is I thought as a bad movie aficionado, I've thought about this a lot, where I don't think that you can do that with movies. So it's interesting that you can do that with games.
Yeah, I wonder if this is more comparable to like a Chuck Tingle book.
Chuck Tingle is a fucking genius, and I will not.
Yeah, and I'm not saying this is a bad game.
No,
but like consumer soft products are genius too. I think they're a great developer.
Like
I think it's two people.
Yeah,
that's true. But yeah, no, I don't think that there's any way you can make a movie that way, which is because I've definitely watched some bad movies where they're like, look at how ridiculous this is, and you're just like, this is stupid. But
but this is kind of this
Neil Breen movie, and you're just like, this is cinema.
Yeah, no, I think I'm gonna stand by that. This is kind of like a Chuck Tingle book made into a video game, where it's just like the premise is like, what are you talking about? But then it's like, okay, the execution.
But then you get into the vibe, and you're
and it's like, okay, yeah.
Actually, you know what? That probably sounds about right, because like with Chuck Tingle, like you look at it from the outside, you're like, okay. But if you can read some of it and you get into the vibe of Chuck Tingle, you like get the vibe of Chuck Tingle.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I see where we're on the same wavelength here.
Yeah. So it's the Chuck Tingle of video games.
Oh God! The one way to convince me to play that game, if I wasn't already convinced.
Yep.
Oh man! If only there's a movie version, but I'll just have to wait to see Dear Evan Hansen when I don't have to go outside to see it. But man, we could get on a tangent about that, but I'm just so excited to eventually watch it.
What did you play this week, Alice?
Oh,
yeah.
I played the game that is the opposite of Dear Evan Hansen?
So it's good.
So it's good. Yes. I just played. We don't really have to talk about it for very long, but I just played like stupid amounts of Atelier Ryza 2 this week. I think I'm nearing the end because I'm on the what is the kind of final dungeon area. So I think I'm nearing the end. And the reason I'm playing it is partially because it's a really good game and I really love it, but also because the entire series is on sale right now. And those games rarely go on sale because Koei Tecmo knows that fans like me will be like, okay, I'll pay that money. So I've spent too much money on this series this week. So playing the second one, and then I might jump back into one of the older games to see to check in with that, because I just in general love the vibe of those games. But it just I don't know, it's just so pleasant. And the one thing that I really think is interesting about the series that I don't know if people necessarily people talk about the crafting because that's kind of the whole alchemy thing. But I think the thing that's really interesting about the game is how much the alchemy is important in terms of progression in the game, to the point of even not just like, hey, you have to craft items for this plot point, which is certainly a part of it, but also, hey, is this boss kicking your ass? Rather than going and grinding, levels, it's going to make a lot more sense to go back to your atelier, go, okay, what can I make what were my issues in the last battle? So what can I make to make myself better? Or can I upgrade my existing items so that they are better in terms of both the equipment that you have listed on you and the usable items that you have with you? And it really forces you to think about that in ways that I don't know if it's necessarily a lot of other games do with the crafting mechanics. Like, for example, I've definitely crafted the same item multiple times where I'm like kind of trying to tweak it, going, okay, I like this staff. The one thing I want from Ryza in particular is that sometimes I feel like she can be a little bit of a slower character at this, like at least with the way that I've equipped her. So with these items, I'm going to focus on speed in the items, and okay, I would like to have this kind of an item, so I need to go get these items so that I can make that, and make that. So it really does force you to focus in on that system, even though it's not necessarily a terribly hard game. I think the thing that really does make the series really fun is that alchemy system, and how it kind of is much more necessary than even like really leveling up your characters, is to make sure that they're well equipped and that they have stuff. And it's just so satisfying too when you get new items that you've been waiting for. Like I had been waiting to make a specific material, and I finally got the items to be able to do it, and it just like fucking ripped, where you're just like, yes, I finally have enough to make, I have enough underworld crystals to be able to make this thing. And then you make it, and then you realize that there's another item that you need that you only had one of, and you're like, well, shit. There's just, I don't know, it's just, there's a lot, like, for being such a chill game in terms of the atmosphere and a lot of the vibe of it and everything, there's just like a lot of depth in the crafting aspect of it. And I think that from what I've heard, a lot of fans of the series are frustrated with how like simplified Ryza is, in particular with the crafting. So I'm interested in playing some of these older games and seeing more of that, because I've heard that people are like, yeah, the Ryza is really a lot more polished in terms of the aesthetics and in terms of the exploration and the combat, but the older series you might like them better for story, you might like them better for characters, and you might like them better because of the alchemy system. So it's interesting to think about that, because that's already one of my favorite things about Ryza. So I'm like, ooh, if it's what will happen when I go and play some of these older games? So I don't know. I think it's just such a cool series, and I'm glad that, like, in particular, the Ryza games have been doing really, really well sales wise, so that it can continue on as a series and it can keep growing. I know that it's the 25th anniversary, I think, of the series, and they have already announced a new game, and I think they have other announcements that they're planning on. So it's an exciting time to be a fan of this series.
Yeah, it seems like that series is really like, it's just well liked enough that, and it makes enough money that they're going to be able to make it for a long time, because it has such a like devoted fan base.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's one of those where it's like, it's still niche, especially in terms of its aesthetic for like a Western market. Like, a lot of the cute anime girl aesthetic is not necessarily as popular in Western markets. Although I'm like, why not? but it's popular enough where, and Ryza in particular has sold enough that it's going to keep being supported as a series. And we're going to get into the news, so I'll just say my piece of that news, which is that they announced Sophie 2, which is the 4th game in the Mysterious series, which was the series that was the last, that was right before Ryza came out. And it's I don't know. It's just nice that they're able to keep doing this and
absolutely
up some of those and keep making games in those older series. And like they had a new game in the Arland series, which is which was like the first series on like PlayStation 3. So it's very nice, and I'm just very happy that I've gotten into this series, because it's very much like, it's one of those things where you play it and you're like, wait, why haven't I known about this for a million years? This is exactly my vibe in the game.
Sure. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
So anyways, I recommend that series if you want to play it. It's currently on sale, but it's still kind of expensive to play because
how long is the sale on for?
It's like for the next few days, I think. Through the 6th, maybe.
Yeah, but it's one of those series that like I really would like to play. It's a JRPG series I really like to play, but it's one of, there's like, I want to play Trails and Tales
and
some of these Final Fantasy Pixel remasters and that series. There's just so many JRPGs I'd like to play.
Oh, me too. And I'm in the same boat. It's just one of those where I've been interested in this series for a while. Like I've been kind of like casually interested, and then I played Ryza and I'm like, okay, I really love this. Which is why I spent so much money this week. But at the same time, even when it's on sale, they don't go that much on sale. But at the same time, this is the first time these trilogy packs that they have on sale. I think I saw some on Reddit. This is the first time that they've been on sale in like 2 years. So it's like, it's an expensive series to be into. But if you think that it's kind of along your wavelength, then I'd recommend trying it.
I may end up picking up one of the trilogy packs just to have it, and then get into it at some point. I think the art is really cool. I like the art a lot, and it took me a long time to get to a place where I like could reconcile like finding anime art appealing, like finding this kind of anime art appealing, without going, do I find this appealing for like weird reasons I haven't unpacked, but the answer I've come to is like, no, I just think it's cool. I don't know. I like a lot of
beautiful art.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not like looking at it to go, I want to look at these boobies.
And the thing that I think is nice about the series is that it is like the majority of the protagonists are anime girls, basically. But at the same time, the games really do a good job at not being sexualized. Like the fan base has definitely sexualized, especially Ryza, which I have mixed feelings on.
They do it with their marketing in shitty ways too.
Yeah, they do. That's true.
But I get what you're saying about it.
But like the games themselves don't necessarily focus on that. In the games, they definitely do in the marketing. There was a whole, like with this 25th anniversary, they were selling merch that was all like bikini merch, and I'm like, man, why are you doing this like this? Why are you doing me like this, series? But like once they're in the game, like the most sexual thing, even in Ryza, which is like people are like, whoa, this is the fan servicey one, is that she has thick thighs and you see her fully clothed ass multiple times.
I guess what I was kind of trying to get is I used to kind of look down my nose a little bit at some games that use this kind of aesthetic as like, well, I like anime, but when games look like this, I think it's weird. And I'm hitting a point in my life where I'm just like, whatever, I don't need to. I'm realizing that I think there was a lot of my feelings about that stuff was kind of performative in a way. I need to publicly decry this, but who fucking cares?
I mean, listen, I've been unpacking that with myself too, where when I was a teenager, I was really, really deep into anime and manga. And then when I was in my early kind of mid 20s, I was like, well, I like good anime, but but really like kind of trying to disconnect myself from my teenage kind of weeb years, let's be real. And then now as somebody who's in my 30s, I'm like, honestly, who cares? Like, life sucks.
Life is too short.
Life is too short to be performative about that. I'm just gonna watch like good anime, like Odd Taxi, and I'm also gonna watch the dumbest shit too.
Yes.
Like I did a thread on Twitter about alternates to Squid Game, and I included Mirai Nikki Future Diary, which is trash. It is honestly garbage, but it was like I watched that garbage so fast because it was like, this is awful, but also I can't look away.
Yeah.
Okay, totally unrelated from the topic of Atelier Ryza too, but so I've not watched this Squid Game. You compared it to other things or you did not compare it favorably to other things that you preferred, like Danganronpa and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Is it still worth a watch?
Oh, I would say so. Yeah. It's just, I think part of the reason it's so popular though, is that it is very much, this is going to sound really condescending. And I don't mean this is a condescending thing to the creators of the show, who like a lot of the work is really great behind it, especially the acting, the set design and everything. But it is kind of baby's first death game, you know.
It sounds like an enormous amount of the nuance and depth was lost in the translation.
I
was reading from some Korean folks on Twitter.
That was also kind of like, sorry. That was also, if you watch the CC version, apparently the straight up English version without CC is supposed to be better.
Okay. Yeah, but even then, like a lot of it is pretty basic, because like I kept wondering, is there going to be some, like they keep talking about the VIPs like early on, and you're like, is there going to be some sort of twist about what that means? And then it's like, no, it is just rich people who like to watch people like kill each other. Like it's like
Purge.
It's very basic in that kind of sense, and it's not bad, but it's just one of those things where I feel like a lot of people who have already seen a lot or read or watched a lot of content that's kind of similar, they're like, you see the comparisons and they're not quite as good. Like, for example, like I feel like a lot of the games in particular don't go as far psychologically as they could. They're like, and I think that, I don't know if it necessarily is trying to do that, but for example, I'm still not done with the first season, but I've been watching the anime Kaiji, and it has kind of a similar initial premise where people who have a whole lot of debt are going to play basic games to basically gamble for more money.
Is it shogi? I forget.
No, it is a card-based version of rock, paper, scissors, but it gets really deep into the psychology of it, and it gets really interesting in terms of the mechanics of it too, where it's like you're looking at this like kids game, but people are looking at psychology of, okay, so you're given a limited number of cards that have the rock, paper, and scissors, but a lot of people might tend to be kind of balanced, where if they use a rock, then they're going to use the scissors because they're not going to use all of them at once. And so then like it goes kind of a lot more in depth into using this basic kind of game everybody knows as kind of a battle of wits between the players, and people are deceiving each other, people are doing this. Like I feel like there's a lot more of that, whereas with Squid Game, like for example, it does a lot of things similar, where it's like these are children's games that are some are popular worldwide, some are mostly just Korea based, but it's a lot less the games themselves are a lot less of that. And I think that's fine because they like there are episodes that don't even focus necessarily as much on the games. But for example, it's like the first game is red light, green light. But if you are caught moving after the red light, you get shot, basically.
Sure.
It's by a giant doll thing, and you're just like, okay. But there's not really a lot of strategy involved. It's just kind of like that's kind of understandable because they're just introduced to the fact that this is now a death game rather than just playing games, and and being eliminated means you're being eliminated. But but even later on, there's like, I don't know, they have a game where they're like each given 10 marbles, and they're like, get 10 marbles from somebody else. So but it really does not do a lot in terms of the games themselves. And I think that there's a lot of story elements that are decent and characterization that's decent that comes across. I mean, I read a lot about that translation too, and I've seen some people say that it's like the closed captioning, and then also people who are like, yeah, this is also localization, just like localization too, which I get. But at the same time, I feel like it kind of doesn't go quite as far with a lot of the characterization too. Or there's characters that are good that they die right away, which is a common trope in those kind of death game things. But
look at the first Danganronpa. Look at the first death that happens there.
Son of a bitch. Yeah. It's like the character where I was like, I like her. That's great. And then you're just like, what the fuck are you doing?
Or Danganronpa 3. That first death.
Oh my god.
I'm thinking those sound like they would probably be better executed than that. Like not that, but it's working within a different scope.
Yeah,
a 40-hour game.
I don't think it's
show.
But I don't think it's bad at all. It's just I think that there are other things that do the kind of death game concept better, especially with like Danganronpa and Zero Escape, and then not necessarily death game, but kind of similar with the gambling and financial aspect. I mentioned the anime Kaiji, the manga Liar game, which I really love.
Oh yeah, I've heard great things. But by the way, if people are looking up Kaiji, don't look up Kaijo. That's something completely different. I don't know if you're familiar with Kaijo.
No.
Kaijo is the one with the anime ladies that are fighting each other with their butts.
I've actually seen that before.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
It's really stupid, and it's actually kind of good, but totally different from Kaiji.
Yeah,
it's like they have like butt techniques and stuff. It's
really stupid.
It's pretty funny. It's less gross than it sounds. I'm not gonna say it's like entirely not gross, because there's an angle of it that is definitely, hey, want to watch girls smash their butts together, but it's not as bad as it sounds, and it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's just kind of it's just interesting that. I don't, and all this to say as like, I don't want to come across negatively towards Squid Game, especially because I think the actors in it do fucking great work. Like there are certain actors in there where I'm like, well, even if the writing for some of the characters is a little leaner, or even if the translation is a little bit like wonky, like they specifically focused on one character who is, in my opinion, like one of the best characters in the show. But they, even if I don't know enough Korean to make any sort of definitive one way or another, but her acting was just so fucking good.
And it's live action, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So it's like, it's an interesting. I think it's fine. They may have been going for some simpler concepts and scenarios in some ways to reach an audience that is maybe not as receptive to some of the weirdness and depth in things like Danganronpa and Zero Escape and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it could be fully intentional.
Absolutely. And it's like, again, I don't mean that as like a negative here. Yeah. It's just that as somebody who's experienced quite a bit of this, like thinking about content, I'm like, damn, is there something wrong with me with how much I like the whole death game concept a little too much?
No, I get it. I mean, there's a lot of times when I see sci-fi stuff that people are like really into, I look at it and go, that's simple. You know, it's not like I think it's bad, but I don't like.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm like
for it in the same way.
I think it's good. It's just like, I think a lot of people, it's just blowing up in a way that I was surprised about a little bit, because it is like, you know, I feel like other things have done it not necessarily even better. Like I mentioned in my same Twitter thread, the movie Cube, which is kind of, which is I'm not great, which is fine.
It's not a great movie.
It's not a great movie, but it's like also like extremely low budget, weird.
Then you get Hypercube.
Cube 2 Hypercube, which is really bad.
Have you seen any of the Purge movies, Allison?
No, and I kind of think I need to go and watch all of the Purge movies.
You should watch them. They're pretty good. I've only watched the first two so far, but they're pretty good. There's also Circle, which is not great, but it's like also it's also extremely low budget. There's also Exam, which is again not great, but that's the thing about a lot of this death game kind of series. Most of them are kind of mediocre in general. I always thought that the Purge was like kind of like torture porny, like it was just like a lot of graphic violence for the sake of it. It's not really. It's much more like someone saw a death game anime, and then I don't think this is necessarily what really happened, but somebody saw a death game anime and was like, how can I translate this to a Western thriller? Because it doesn't have any game stuff in it. Like
I do love how stupid the concept is the thing.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it's like it's
quite good.
Oh yeah, and then you have like all of the various spin-offs that are like, what if the Purge went on forever? And it's like, then that's just anarchy. I don't know.
And those are just the great thing is that they didn't make a bunch of side movies. They just make a new
made one series.
Yeah, like. There's little things that tie them together in terms of like character moments and stuff, but like Purge 2 is not. It's another Purge. It's another year of the Purge, and it's just on a different scale with a different focus. So yeah, it's
honestly I might
surprisingly deep too.
Honestly, I might just
concept.
Wait, like the Purge, the original work is based off of a Star Trek episode, like loosely.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh. Okay, yeah, it is theoretically like I don't know if, because original work, The Purge 2013, based on Star Trek, the original series, The Return of the Archons by Gene Roddenberry. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know if that was necessarily intentional or not. Yeah, no, it's like OG Star Trek, but
yeah, it makes sense. It's definitely a concept that is it's very much a movie that it's a series that is about its concept for sure.
Honestly, it honestly does make sense that was a concept that showed up in OG Star Trek.
Holy shit, that first movie has some of the best, like, you fucking idiot, what are you doing?
I 100%.
You're such a fucking moron for doing what you're doing right now.
Honestly, I might have to go watch like all of these, because also it is now October, which means I just want to watch nothing but kind of, let's be real, kind of spooky movies, and also like kind of like cheap kind of spooky movies.
Yeah, they're not really scary. The Purge movies that I've watched so far anyway, they're not really Halloween-y or horror-y, but they're thrillers, and they do have a little bit of a slasher vibe to them.
Like in particular, the whole kind of like home invasion thing is like a very much like childhood fear for me, to the point where when I was like, maybe I don't even remember when this movie came out. I never even saw the movie, but so I was like 11. But just the trailer for the movie Panic Room broke me as a kid. Like when I was like 11.
It's a good movie too.
It is a good movie.
I've heard good things about it. It's just that like that like that's one of those things where like that as a concept, that kind of home invasion thing just like fucked me up as a kid, to the point where my dad like literally pulled up crime statistics and is like, we live in a safe neighborhood, you're fine.
Yeah, I've never liked home invasion movies for a similar reason. Panic Room is one of the few that I've seen, but The Purge is, it's not really home invasion in the
no,
same
and it's
way.
also dumb too, is the thing. So it's not.
Yeah, and it's like
it's
home
not
invasion.
Serious.
I always thought that the story of the first Purge was that like some psychopaths randomly attacked the family that lived in that house and invade their home on Purge night. That's not what it's about. It's
that's what I've always thought it's about.
No,
too.
It's got an interesting story. The plot is actually like kind of is pretty interesting, the way that the situation evolves over the course of their evening. So I recommend it for sure.
Honestly, like next time I talk about movies on this podcast, I'm going to be like, listen, I've watched the entire Purge series.
Yeah, I need to watch the other 4
then,
or whatever.
then you watched or you read all of the fan fictions that Jenny Nicholson talked about with regards to the Purge.
I have watched that video 1,000 times of Purge X One Direction fan fiction.
It blows my mind that there hasn't been a Purge video game, because it's such a good concept for a video game.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's somebody needs to get on
like
that.
Blumhouse, what are you doing? Yeah.
Make a Annapurna video game.
Oh
God. Anyways, if you want a good movie that's not about death games and it's not anything close to that, but it's also a Blumhouse movie, go watch Happy Death Day. Thank you. Anyways, I think it's time for us to get to the news.
Sure.
Yes.
This has been a long,
that was a tangent.
I feel like a lot of these we can just kind of.
Yeah, no, and I was looking at that too, and I think a lot of it's pretty basic. But to start with some lovely ones, Christopher Judge, who is Kratos in God of War, recent God of War, as well as my heart, Teal'c on Stargate SG.
Oh man, let me tell you, we don't have to go off on a tangent, but in one of my discords, I was like, I should fucking watch Stargate again, because as I started talking about it, I was like, Stargate's probably one of my top 3 favorite TV shows ever.
Stargate,
I think
fucking rules.
Yeah.
I rewatched a few episodes of like early Stargate last year, and I think I need to get back into that rewatch, because it is just like cozy. Like that is like
so fucking good.
Like that, like that kind of sci-fi is just like,
yes,
like my cozy kind of warm, happy space. And honestly, like Teal'c is up there as like one of the best characters in Stargate. So
yeah, he is.
Like, indeed.
He's the best.
Anyways,
for sure.
I am but anyways, he said that God of War Ragnarok was ended up being partially delayed due to an injury of his, and he talked about how much he really loves the dev team and how much they worked around it and made it work for him. And it's just nice to see that that's something that, somebody talk about the dev team and say, you did a good.
He's a cool guy, and
yeah.
And it was a nice, like, humanizing moment for him and for the team. I just, as I've grown more and more distant from that God of War game, I kind of have come to deride it a little bit in my memory. But it's certainly not because of Christopher Judge or because of the team that made it.
It's one of those where looking back on it, I feel I really liked it when I was playing it, but I feel zero inclination to go replay it at all.
I have no connection in my brain now.
I'm fine without replaying any of it.
I dipped into that Death Stranding director's cut a little bit, and we'll play a little more of it here and there as the mood strikes me. And I realized that I had more of a like, oh yeah, this part was so good, because it's stupid, not because I'm like think Death Stranding is high art. I had much more of a like that feeling of like recent nostalgia reaction to Death Stranding than I do for anything around God of War. Well, and Death Stranding is a stupid game.
I don't think God of War pushes any boundaries. I think Death Stranding does some weird shit that you're like, okay, sure. Like the first encounter with the BT, that's actually kind of spooky.
Yeah. God of War, it feels very much like a lot of other prestige games right now.
Yeah. And the sequel looks like maybe they're doing some cool stuff. So I'm interested to see where it goes. And Christopher Judge's performance is the high point of that game. And if it pushes any boundaries, I certainly think the performance capture and performance from him is like pretty outstanding. So I think that you know, I'm hoping that with a more interesting cast potentially in the new one, I think a big part of the reason why God of War doesn't live on, you know, Christopher Judge aside, obviously he's not a white dude, but in the context of the game and the way that everyone's portrayed, it's like a bunch of white dudes angry at each other.
Yep.
And that's like kind of all and then one crazy mom, and that's kind of all that story. I remember that story as in a lot of ways, which is too bad because I think it's trying to be so much more than that. But I just think it could have used a much more interesting, diverse cast, and it looks like the new one might have that. So
just my memories of the story is just him going boy, and you know, he does it well, and like it's just one of those games where it feels like so prestige-y, and it's not a game where I ever have any like with most games that I really like, I will typically have that like, should I just play it again? And I'm like with God of War, I have like none of that at all. Even though I finished it and I enjoyed it and everything, I'm just like,
at least apart from I think there's an argument about fridging there that is very on point, but I don't have the same, like, I don't have a lot of prestige games, including things like Last of Us 2 for me, but a lot of prestige games I have like, I actively dislike them in a sense where it's like I just find them tiring and frustrating and annoying. I haven't gotten there at God of War. I at least just don't really feel a lot for it at all.
Yeah,
it's not like I have super negative thoughts.
And like there's a lot of those types of games where I've stopped midway through because I'm just like, I'm not feeling it. I finished all of God of War because I wanted to see all of it. It was genuinely really well crafted and beautiful. It's one of those games where I just, in terms of looking back, I'm not like thinking about that game.
Impression.
No, and it didn't leave an impression where I'm like, man, the game was ripped. It left an impression of like, that was a pretty good game in hindsight.
Wasn't that our game of the year that year?
Yeah,
I think it probably was, because
I think
in the immediate come off of that game, I was really hot on it.
Oh, yeah.
Just over time,
it was also
evolved on it quite a lot.
I think one of those games too, where I think literally all of us had played it and all of us were pretty good on it. So it's kind of like,
it's like one of Sam's favorite games ever too. So I think that was part of and I think for him, the dad game aspect of it really hit, which did nothing for me in that context. So
I thought Trace was a little shit.
Oh yeah, I did too. Yeah, I didn't find him particularly endearing. I thought he was annoying for most of the game.
Especially when he had his tantrum.
Yeah, I like the very end of that. Yeah, that part sucked. Actually, I'm remembering that part did make me mad. But I remember appreciating the fact that it made me mad because it clearly was on purpose. He was supposed to make you mad, and I thought
you're supposed to feel like, oh, you're a little shit.
That's probably the most interesting thing the game did, is it pissed me off about a character legitimately. Like, I got actually mad at him, and I actually was like, maybe I just fucking stop playing this game because this sucks. And I think that, speaking to what I said earlier about Cruelty Squad, where I wish more games were not fun, I think that was probably the most interesting moment of God of War, because it was not fun, but it was not fun with a purpose. And that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, because sorry, this is out of band kind of, but like what did he do? He like talked shit to one of the dwarves or something, and like insulted the dwarves, and then just like ran away, he just fucked off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then you had to do a bunch of stuff that you normally had him to help you with, and it was a pain in the fucking ass to do it without him.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's what it was.
Well, but also like why am I blanking on their names? The dwarves.
Rock and Sindri?
Like, yes.
Yeah.
They're like arguably like the most likable characters in the game.
They're total sweethearts.
They're just like, you just really love, you play the game and you love them, and then you're just like, you're like, Atreus, you little shit. You don't say that to either Brock or Sindri. I don't remember which one was he insulted. Yeah, and then Freya, and then you're like, oh.
Freya was so cool, and then they were like, what if Freya was a trope?
Yeah, I know.
What if the only woman in this game was instead made into a shitty trope?
I loved her up until that. She was so
Rescue the princess. Oh man, yeah. Now we're talking about it, and I don't know if I love God of War as much as I thought I did.
These are the thoughts I mean, I guess I have thought about it a fair bit, but every time I think about it, I go, that game was not as good as I thought it was then. But anyway.
Anyways, what else happened in the world of news?
In terms of other things that are mixed, Konami's recent output, which is certainly worse than God of War, but they're set to bring back game development for Metal Gear, Castlevania, and Silent Hill. And I have to say, who is really interested in Metal Gear post Kojima?
Rising was good, and that wasn't a Kojima game. It was Platinum.
Yeah,
and he didn't actually do any writing on it, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. I think there are lots of people who think they want these things. What I will say is, were I Konami, were I Sony, I would say Kojima Productions made a game that sold pretty fucking well. What if we gave both of you a lot of money and you fucking made nice, and Koji Pro made more Metal Gear and Castlevania and Silent Hill games?
Well,
but who knows?
I don't
think that's what's happening.
I don't think Kojima would go for that.
I don't know. Seems like the kind of guy that if you were like, Kojima, your incredible vision, we just think that there's more to tell here, and we really respect you and want you to be the one to tell it. He might be like, all right, can I put Mads in it? Like, I don't know, but maybe.
Okay, listen, I'm like, I have not really played much Metal Gear, but I'm like, if Mads Mikkelsen was in it, I'd be like,
Know who I'm surprised isn't a man crush of Kojima, and it seems like he should be a shoo-in, is Cillian Murphy.
Sure.
Yeah. He was Kojima was recently watching the show Midnight Mass, which I haven't had a chance to see. But he was talking about Rahul Kohli, who is in Midnight Mass, and then also, and I'm like, put him in it. Put Rahul Kohli in a game, please.
Obviously, this doesn't apply to Rahul Kohli, but Kojima's like weird-looking white dudes is like seems to be one of his things he loves.
But like, who doesn't love Mads Mikkelsen?
No, of course,
that's true. Mads is great,
and Cillian Murphy's great too.
Yeah,
also
he's
a weird-looking white dude.
He's a weird
and frankly, same with fucking what's his name, hog cranking guy.
Norman Reedus. Yes, Norman
Reedus.
Very strange there we
looking. Go. Yeah, like not in a bad way.
No. I think all three of those dudes are incredibly hot, but they look weird.
What did that just break Allison?
It did a little bit where it's like that's your description for Norman Reedus is hog cranking guy.
Well, you knew who I meant.
See, that's the thing too, is that I didn't know who 100% who you meant. Although it is like, again, like, who does Kojima love? I'm like, yeah, it's like Mads. It is Norman Reedus. Yeah, man.
Like, he doesn't seem like he cares about your traditional white hot dudes like your Brad Pitts or whatever.
No.
Like, however, he also seems interested in like beautiful. I mean, I think I have very wide beauty standards, but like canonically considered very beautiful women.
Yeah.
And yet he's really into weird looking dudes. It's funny.
Honestly,
it's funny. It's interesting.
Kojima has become one of those people where I'm like, I don't know, you live your life.
Yep.
And I will enjoy it. I am definitely going to pick up Death Stranding Director's Cut eventually, because I do need to play. I do want to play that game, actually.
For what it's worth, I mean, I won't get into it because we're into news now, but what I did play of it was excellent. I mean, it was the update. It's probably the best like remastered Director's Cut kind of thing I've seen in a while.
PlayStation 5.
I think it's even better than the Spider-Man remaster.
Nice.
I think it's it's stunning the way that game looks on a PS5 in 4K. It was definitely like an astonishment moment for me of like, wow, this is what a game.
And that's such a fun experience, especially since I remember when the GameCube came out and I was like, this is the future. So seeing stuff on my PlayStation 5 is fun.
Oh my God. Sorry. I just looked at my phone and it showed me a picture from 8 years ago today where I was playing fucking Cookie Clicker.
You could recreate that experience on Steam right now.
Yeah, it's true. October 2nd, 2013. That's like 23 quadrillion cookies. Anyways, sorry.
More news.
Do 10 per story with the list we have.
The U.S. Equal Opportunity Employment Commission sues Activision Blizzard. And more of the Activision Blizzard is trash time.
We're getting one of these every week now.
I know. We're getting one more of it every single week. We're having like government entity suing Blizzard.
Activision Blizzard.
Activision Blizzard. Yeah.
Well, I think all of our previous thoughts will continue to represent our feelings on this.
Yeah, it sure will.
The one weird thing I was thinking about this week that I was talking about with some friends is I think it's worth keeping in mind as we navigate this Activision Blizzard is shitty. It's worth reiterating that like that extends to a lot of their management, but like I read a statistic this week that Sledgehammer Games has like the highest retention rate of any AAA studio. It's like one of the highest retention rates of any AAA studio, and they are an Activision Blizzard studio, and yet by all accounts it sounds like they're like an incredible place to work, and like nobody ever quits there because there's a place to work that is great. Turnover rate of under 1%. That's what I saw.
Which is ridiculous.
So I only say that
for games in general.
Especially for games.
My point being not to defend Activision Blizzard, but it's worth keeping in mind as you like think about these things and have conversations about them that like there are people that work there that are
innocent subsidiaries.
Yeah. And stuff. So it's like, it's kind of deploy, and also perhaps keep in mind that it is not necessarily, when it is very easy to say, I can't fucking imagine anyone would engage with an Activision Blizzard game when there are no Activision Blizzard games that you're interested in playing.
Yeah. And I think, you know, my personal 2 cents on ethical consumption under capitalism is do your best at a certain point, live your life too. So
and if you are somebody who gets deep enjoyment out of playing World of Warcraft with your friends, that's like okay.
And totally.
It's shitty for people to go on Twitter and say that that you are the problem when that's like
absolutely not. And I think that you can separate your enjoyment of that series versus
for sure
liking the creator. And I think that can extend to a lot of different things with problematic creators, where you can say, yes, I enjoyed this. I don't know if I necessarily want to give this creator as much money in the future, but at the same time, my enjoyment is not necessarily indicative of other things.
I've generally seen a lot of both with Activision Blizzard this week and with New World. I've seen it a bunch where people are like either directly or indirectly suggesting if you're someone who engages with any of their stuff that you're a piece of shit, and I think that's like ridiculously unhelpful.
It is, and I think in addition to being unhelpful, it's not exactly going to convince anybody to join your side. It's going to just make people pissed off, and it's unhelpful. It's untrue. So if you do like Activision Blizzard game, I mean, all of us have liked an Activision Blizzard game at one point. I haven't played it in a million years, but I like Hearthstone. And
and I think like if you are going to take that stance, make sure you button your shit up, because I don't do this, and I would never call anybody out directly for this because I have no interest in it. But there have been a lot of cases this week, surprisingly a lot of cases, where I see a tweet from somebody shitting on something and shitting on people who engage with it, and then they talk about a thing they love, and it is also problematic, and it's like, watch,
honestly,
because you look like a hypocrite when you do
honestly that. I like enough problematic shit where I'm like, I just gotta do, I'm doing my best here. But at the same, if
you're gonna say that, you know, New World is atrocious because it's made by Amazon, and then turn around and talk about like stuff like, I don't know, Pokemon Unite was one that I saw, and it's like, dog, that is made by 10 motherfucking cent. Like, come on. Let's all try to get along a little bit.
While I've definitely felt a lot of the schadenfreude about Activision Blizzard, rightfully so, getting the book thrown at them. And I'm like, hey, it would sure be nice if other if other publishers and developers had the same level of scrutiny. Because,
and all this is to say, throw your shit at Activision Blizzard for sure. Throw your shit at Amazon. Like, those companies do not need people. I am not defending them. Those companies do not need anyone's defense. Just set your sights on that, not on tearing down people that are engaging with the stuff. Talk about why the thing is problematic, not I don't like you for engaging with this problematic thing, is all I'm saying.
Right. Because also, like, again, if you say like you are a bad person for enjoying this, people aren't going to go, I'm right. I am such a terrible person. I'm going to, you know, do, I don't know, something as penance. It's like, they're just going to be like, fuck you.
Anyway, I don't need to rant about it, because I think I'm not trying to I absolutely would never call anybody out about any of this stuff either. They're like directly, but I just keep it in mind is more what I'm saying. If you're listening and you want to talk shit about something, make sure you're talking shit about the thing and not about people that
absolutely
engaging with it,
or even necessarily, like, I mean, like, management at Activision Blizzard sucks, but like individual employees certainly don't. And I mean, like, as somebody that works in specifically customer service for a government, I am very familiar with people referring to you as like, you specifically did this to me, and I'm like, no, I certainly did not. So it's like, you know, you pick your battles here. Know that it's the, you know, specific issues with like management and how the company is run, and not necessarily everybody who's ever worked at Activision Blizzard. Anyways, we have a couple of acquisition news, which is excitement. Capitalism. Bluepoint Games is joining PlayStation, and they did the remake of Demon's Souls, which I've heard was good, but I haven't played it yet.
I think it's
good. They also did another one. I'm forgetting what it was.
They've done
the remake of Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh, that's what it was. Shadow of the Colossus,
and they've done a bunch of, and they've done other remasters and stuff.
I totally thought Bluepoint was already a PlayStation studio.
Honestly, I mean, like, they might as well have been. So it's one of those things where you're just like,
the only two things that they have done not for Sony is the Metal Gear Solid HD collection, which
that was on PlayStation 2, but
it was on Xbox 360 as well.
It was,
but I mean,
it was,
right?
But
Metal
the
Gear
it's
a PlayStation franchise.
The PlayStation version came with MGS1, where the Xbox one didn't, so it was the superior version.
And they did the Xbox 360 port of Titanfall 1 apparently. Everything else they have done has been work with Sony.
So it's like, it's one of those things where it's
surprising.
Like, it's seeing Sony acquire them. It's like, okay, cool.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, it's natural. And I think there was a rumor about this going around back when Sony acquired Housemarque, if I remember correctly. But I don't know. That was months ago, or days ago, weeks ago. I don't know.
Honestly, time is fucking makes
Time
no
is
sense
fucking
anymore.
Yeah.
The next one is perhaps more or less. I don't know how I feel about.
Yeah. So Night School Studio, who did Oxenfree, which is a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
I love Oxenfree. They're joining Netflix for Netflix
Yeah.
games.
Like Oxenfree is kind of, let's say, an indie darling.
Yeah.
I would say,
sure.
like in a similar vein to like Firewatch. So like,
yeah, it's. I feel like if you're specific.
I feel like it's better than Firewatch.
Yeah,
anyway.
but when oh sorry.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say when Campo got acquired by Valve, that made sense. Like that seemed like a company to acquire them.
I mean,
that's like
Valve is also an indie darling in a way.
Yeah, but yeah, sorry, please, Allison, keep going.
Oh no, it's just that Oxenfree is one of those games where people who love it love Oxenfree, and then if you don't love it, you probably just don't know it exists, or you're not necessarily into that sort of kind of indie game, which is fine. But joining Netflix, which is now it's the first game studio to join Netflix, is interesting.
What I will say about Oxenfree is it is the kind of game, not that studio is going to make these kinds of games forever, but it is the kind of game that I could see slotting into Netflix's interface. And if they worked in a way for you to just use a PlayStation controller to play it, or whatever controller to play it in their interface, it
would work.
It could just slot in alongside. I mean, you could stream it and it could be fine.
Absolutely. And
so I think it's interesting.
Very narrative focused in that kind of way, where I can see, that if they're going to acquire studios, that they would acquire a studio that does that kind of narrative game.
Yeah. And I also think by the same token, I could see the developers of Oxenfree making a very cool animated sort of thing for Netflix too. Like, I think there's a lot of room based on the fact that people love watching Let's Plays of games. Granted, usually it's because of the person playing the Let's Play and their personality, but still, you could translate Oxenfree to a sort of movie setup where if I were at Netflix, I would be saying, hey, let's do an experiment here. Let's make it so that we stream Oxenfree to you. You can just pick up the controller and play it. But let's also say for people who maybe don't play video games but think this looks interesting, they can just push play on it and the game plays itself and they can watch the game play out. Because
or they could do it.
You could do that with.
It's also something where they could theoretically, in kind of a similar to some of their other experiments with like kind of choose your own adventure stuff, they could kind of maybe slot it into that as well.
Yep.
And I think
for that too.
Yeah, I think we talked about that when rumors were going around that Netflix was looking to acquire studios, comparing it to like Bandersnatch and the Minecraft story mode stuff they did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. You could do that with Oxenfree in particular. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that work. So
I don't know that I have a ton of faith in Netflix as a developer, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Or a publisher. I don't know how you want to think of it.
They would, I guess, fall into the publisher role at that point. So yeah. I don't know. As long as it's the same people making the game itself, then it should be. They've made great things before.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And they said they're still working on Oxenfree too and everything. So
I just hope they don't get absorbed into Netflix in the same way that Campo got absorbed into Valve and then just disappeared. Like, I don't think that I think Campo is doing exactly the Campo people are doing exactly what they want to be doing with their careers right now. I don't believe any conspiracy theory that like Valve brought them in and then killed in the Valley of the Gods. I am sure that based on what I know about working at Valve from people friends of friends who've worked there, you kind of do whatever you want there.
Yeah.
They hire people that are extraordinarily talented and have enormous experience, specifically so they can trust them to just say, you want to go work on Dota models for an afternoon? Go work on Dota models for an afternoon. And it works for them because they have a platform that just makes unlimited money. So I think if Campo wanted to be making in the Valley of the Gods, they could be doing it right now. And I think so.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it sucks for us because I wanted to play that game.
I know, me too.
Totally.
And just on the last note for this, did you all know that Netflix's announcement event was called Tidum, based off of the noise that you make when you
fuck that.
Give me the Tidums. Give me the Tidums.
It's TUDUM. That's their event name.
The Tidums. Tidum has nothing to do with the Netflix. It is just, I'm taking that phrase, I'm reclaiming it. I never had it in the I'm claiming it for the first time, and it's going to mean something lewd by the time I'm done.
Oh,
big,
absolutely.
It's going to be like big Tidum goth girlfriend.
Are you okay?
No,
Tidums,
honestly, no.
What are Tidums? Are Tidums,
Tidum.
they could be anything. It's ambiguous.
Yeah. All we know is that we like them.
Make the Tidums clap. Like.
Oh, man.
Anyways, Spider-Man 2. the sequel to Spider-Man.
Pizza time.
Yeah. To the game. They say it's going to have a darker tone. And they said compared it to Empire Strikes Back, which I feel like is the most like
it's
overused sequel.
It makes my eyes.
Comparison.
It makes me much less interested in Spider-Man 2, but I'm sure I'll get there.
Because it's like one of those things. It's like I love Empire, and it is a phenomenal movie, but it's like it's one of those things where you're like, okay, I feel like a lot of people have taken the wrong lessons from Empire.
Yeah.
Where do they say in this? I don't. I'm trying to find what the actual quote is that ties it to Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, it says from this article that was from Eurogamer on the This Week in Marvel podcast. Creative Vice President Bill Roseman discussed it. If the first Spider-Man game was Star Wars, Spider-Man 2 is kind of our Empire. It gets a little darker.
Yeah, I see.
And I'm like,
now. I'm a little less concerned if it's somebody who's not at all involved with the game in any way saying this. Which, I mean, he is the creative vice president, but I doubt he has any hands-on work with the game. So, maybe it's nothing to be worried about.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where even as a massive Star Wars fan, I see it and I'm like,
in this one, you see Peter's Tidums.
Mary Jane and Peter compare Tidums, and Miles judges them harshly.
Yes. From outside, and it's like the sicko meme. Except he's on the wall looking in the window because he's a spider.
Yeah.
I don't know. Spider-Man 2 is going to have to do
somebody who's good at art. I am not, but somebody who's good at art, make that, please.
But you have to reveal what Tidum. I guess they could just be in shadow or something. I don't want anyone to ever be able to concretely say what Tidums are.
It's just their faces above like a black box that has replaced their bodies, and it just says Tidums behind here. It's like somewhere on the body there are Tidums.
Yeah.
Is it on the body, or is it like a?
Yes.
Is it like a concept?
Tidums are absolutely a part of the human body.
Shit.
That much I will say.
Okay.
So there
anyways,
is who's to say if there's any Tidums in
Spider-Man
the
2.
Games that are being shown off at the Steam Next Fest?
I was just gonna say Spider-Man 2 will probably be fine. Whatever.
Yeah. It'll probably be great.
Maybe I'll be excited when it comes out. I'm not excited for it right now because it seems like a known quantity to me. But whatever.
It's one of those weird. I'm excited about it in like I like Spider-Man. More Spider-Man sounds good.
Anymore, I only get excited for stuff when I see it and go like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Like I'm extremely excited right now for Jet, the Far Shore, because I don't know what the fuck that is. It looks sick, cool. But I don't know what it is. But Spider-Man, it's like, I'm gonna swing around and push the square button a bunch of times and probably hit the circle sometimes, and then it's gonna feel real good
to swing around, and
there'll be a part that makes me tear up because I like the characters a lot, and then I'll hit the credits and go, 8 out of 10.
Honestly, mine's probably gonna be the same, except I'm just gonna aggressively sob because that's the level I get with a lot of these games.
I did see the freeze frame of the Peter Parker and Aunt May scene from the first game and was like, that was really fucking good. The you knew part. It's like it did get me all over again a little bit.
Oh my god, there are so many moments in that game that are really fantastic. And now that's the difference between that and God of War, because like we're talking about this and I'm like, should I just go play Spider-Man again?
I'm not there with Spider-Man, but I like it more than God of War.
But I mean, I guess I did just play Miles last year, and I really loved Miles. So
there won't be any Spider-Man in the Steam Next Fest.
No, but it is some really nifty games that they're showing off, and a lot of different demos. There are hundreds of demos for different games that you can play.
Seriously, hundreds. It's
literally
kind of
hundreds.
It's overwhelming, frankly.
Yeah, but in a cool way, and showing off some really interesting looking games. There's a lot of different places that are showing off specific interesting ones. Like they're just looking it up. There's a PC Gamer article that shows off some nifty looking games. There's one that's like a shopkeeping puzzle game called Strange Horticulture, and I just saw that and I was like, put that in my veins right now. And lots of cool different options, and I think that's where Next Fest is where I've tried a couple of different things that I've really liked, including I think is that where I first tried Garden Story?
That sounds
that showed up on a Switch stream of some form, but then it showed up.
But then it showed up on that.
I think.
Yeah, and then I certainly saw and played Chris Tales for the first time on it, and I still need to purchase that video game. There's just too many video games. But it's really I personally, my favorite reveals and streams and everything are always indie ones that show off just really interesting games. So I'm probably going to spend a little bit of time this afternoon just kind of browsing the Next Fest and seeing if I can find some interesting stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool. I'm probably gonna play the demo for Airport Renovator, which looks fucking like Vibe City. It's like House Flipper but with airports.
I don't know if I don't know if this. I definitely played this demo elsewhere, but it might be new to Steam. But on Super GG Radio, plug, I was on an episode and I played a game called Spider Hack.
That's on there.
But it's on there now on Steam. And that game I am so excited for that whenever that ends up coming out, because it is stylish and weird, and just I think that's one of those games where when I started messing around with it, I just kind of laughed out loud because of how ridiculous the movement and everything was with it. And
it's stupid in a good way.
Oh, absolutely. You're a spider who's flying around, and then you have a big lightsaber. It's great.
There's a Robin Hood game here that I hadn't seen before that's like on their stream right now. That's like third person action RPG, looks vaguely like a turbo janky Assassin's Creed. And it also has city building elements, but not like Fallout, but like you zoom out and it's like you're placing whole buildings and roads and stuff.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Oh damn.
Also, I don't know if it's in Next Fest, but I need to read this tweet from 2-Star Games. A horror game where you navigate an island in an old train, upgrade it over time, and use it to fight an evil spider named Charles. Here's the first trailer.
Hell yeah.
It's called Choo Charles.
Choo Charles?
It looks amazing.
Wow. Yeah, there's one I was looking at called Do Not Buy This Game, which is very reminiscent of There Is No Game.
Oh, yeah, that's just that title.
It seems like they're kind of similar, so I don't know, could be good. But there's literally hundreds of games. There's so
literally
many.
hundreds, and if you're also in that same boat of liking to support indie devs and try out different stuff and find the weird side of gaming, you know.
I'm looking at the Next Fest. You can filter by themes and moods. There's like fantasy, there's sci-fi, there's relaxing, and then there's one just called Dog.
Honestly,
dog games.
Sometimes that's a mood. Is there one called? Is there one called
Tidums? Give me a sec.
There's a lot of different themes. There's cats. There's memes.
There's dragons. So I bet dragons have Tidums.
That's up our alley.
Dragons definitely have Tidums.
Oh, absolutely. There's a theme that's called fishing. There's a theme that's called Mars. There's one that's just transhumanism. Was it? Honestly,
fair enough.
Like,
find me plumbing that well.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. No.
Check out Steam
it's really
Next Fest.
Cool.
It's great.
Honestly, I know that I keep tooting this horn, but support indie devs, please. Because indie games are great.
Otome.
Anyways,
sorry, I'm still looking at these.
Oh yeah. No, as soon as we're done, I'm like gonna go hang out and like look at a bunch of exclusive games.
That Robin Hood game does look good. Anyways,
it looks interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good, but it looks interesting.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Anyways, Genshin Impact. They had an anniversary event.
Yay.
And people were not yay. People thought it was not great. And so that involved review bombing other games that weren't Genshin.
Yeah, because to my understanding, I don't play gacha games that much, but maybe you two, as people who do or have, like,
I played
apparently
a lot of Genshin Impact since I was last in the pod. So,
but like from what I hear, so this is hearsay, and you'll have to confirm or deny for me that these kinds of gacha games, typically with anniversary events, it's where they have like big sales or big reveals, where it's just like, that's where they make relatively large scale things happen that fans look forward to and are like, oh yes, the anniversary events are always the best. And then this one came around and everyone was just like, that's it.
To an extent, but also to an extent, that's when they do a lot of like giveaways of in-game stuff, where it's like, here we're going to be giving away a bunch of tentpoles, and here it's like there's just not much of any of that apparently with Genshin.
You get a tentpole. That was what you got for the anniversary, and then
that was the anniversary. And it's like,
but
yeah,
Genshin Impact made $174 million in like what, I don't know, space like 6 months or something. The thing now, it's over $1 billion in revenue apparently.
Oh my god.
They don't have to give you a lot of rewards. Like I'm not saying this from a like defending them or saying it's good or like trying to suggest that. I mean, people know my thoughts on monetization and capitalism. Why the fuck would they give you a bunch of free shit when people are going to buy and play? That game is so popular, and it is doing, I'm not saying that it is like necessarily a better game than other gachas, but it is pretty typical for gachas to have. I mean, even like I play a little bit of World Flipper. World Flipper is a game that, like, in a lot of cases, you're putting it on autoplay and it's playing itself, and then you're pulling gacha stuff for it. Like gachas don't typically have particularly rich and deep gameplay mechanics, or they'll have rich and deep math, but it kind of works out to being like fairly simple from controlling the game. Genshin Impact is like, feels like a AAA action RPG when you play it. So I'm not I mean, it would be great if they gave you more free shit, because free shit's cool. But when I saw I didn't like get disappointed at their anniversary stuff, because it was like, yeah, of course, as a game that they don't have to go out of their way.
Yeah,
people act like these companies give a shit about their players.
Oh,
like,
they
don't care.
Yeah,
they want money.
Like yesterday in D4DJ, which I still play every single day I will probably play every single day forever.
Oh no.
They gave out enough gems for a free 10 poll, and I was just like, what is happening? Because they are not a generous game in terms of giveaways. So it's like, there's a lot of games that aren't particularly generous. I think from what I've heard, like Fate Grand Order is a notable money pit in terms of that. And so a lot of them aren't really necessarily generous.
I don't think Genshin, as a game, Genshin is quite generous with the amount of content you can play without spending money. Like, you can have fun being a free-to-play player. I think you're gonna have the best time if you spend at least like $20 maybe. But like, you really don't have to spend that much money at all to get a lot out of Genshin.
Right.
So I don't know.
And that's the thing about like my rhythm gacha games that I've been playing every single day for the past several months is like I get quite a bit of enjoyment out of them, and you don't necessarily need to pay money for any of the gameplay. It's just specifically for the cards and stuff.
I do think that the review bombing thing is funny.
Yeah, I was gonna say
review bombing other games, not just Genshin.
Yeah, that's why we're talking about it, because a community being upset with a game is nothing new. Taking that anger and review bombing games that are not the game you're angry at, that's kind of a weird step.
Like other gacha games that you're like, are you just mad at the concept of gachas, which is like,
it wasn't even mood, other but also gacha like, games. It like extended all the way to like.
It was just a weird spree.
I think that the Genshin community is really bad. One of the nice things about Genshin Impact is it's a service game that you can play forever, every single day if you want to, and it's mostly single player. So
stuff that they have review bombed include Arknights, Clash of Clans, League of Legends Wild Rift, Dragalia Lost, Epic 7, I don't know what that is, and Fate Grand Order, which is kind of a gacha. Like, it's just stuff that's completely unrelated. Like,
it's
especially
weird.
Especially if the issue is that's the same impact.
That's MiHoYo's other game.
That makes sense.
Yeah, somewhat. But like from what I've heard, specifically from people who play gacha games, they're like Arknights in particular is apparently extremely generous in terms of like giving away stuff. So they're like, why are you review bombing the game that's the opposite of what you're mad about?
Why are you review bombing League seemingly on like
I mean there's no gacha mechanics, and there might be skins and chests or something, but the characters are not gacha based. And
like there was speculation on like the Twitter zones and stuff like that is like, is people being racist and targeting other Chinese companies, but
not surprising to me, unfortunately.
A lot of these aren't Chinese that they ended up.
Yeah, a lot of those are Japanese. Like
they're Japanese or American. Though
the little that I've engaged with the Genshin community, they all seem like whiny babies. So,
well,
ooh,
mood.
Yeah, frankly.
Anyways, our last piece of not news is Deus Ex Human Revolution 10th anniversary.
10th anniversary. That game ripped. It was so good.
It's a good game. I was thinking about replaying that one recently. Speaking of your Allison, your games that you really like and replay them sometimes.
Yeah.
That game. It's a great game.
That game had so much to live up to because like the original Deus Ex is so beloved, and it did it, and then kind of innovated on it in some really cool ways. Like I love that first level where you're like, oh, I'm gonna explore everything. I'm gonna look through all these computers, and then they keep phoning you, being like, hey, can you come? We have a hostage situation. And then you're like, I'm gonna keep reading these logs. I'll get to there eventually. And then they phone you and they're like, hey, that hostage situation went bad. We need to go now.
Yeah.
And then it like drags you. It's like, oh shit, okay. Yeah, that stuff. That game was so good.
They really nailed the feeling of the first. The thing that I love about these kinds of games, about Deus Ex and games like it, is when you get past the opening level and you're like, okay, well, I'm just sort of in this larger space, and like, oh, maybe there's something interesting in the police station. How could I get into the police station? And then figuring out how to get into the police station. And then you happen to notice that, like, wait a minute, there's a garbage can stacked under an air vent back here. Maybe I could use that. And you can, and it just makes you feel smart, and it's very cool. And I like that about those games, and Human Revolution really got that part.
Totally. Yeah, it was super fun. Anyways, happy 10th anniversary, Human Revolution. Hopefully Adam Jensen can make a return at some point.
Or not. I think that's a series that they could also just let it sit for a long time. Like Mankind Divided felt so forced.
Yeah, Mankind Divided wasn't as good, which was unfortunate.
So I think it's fine. I don't think they need to make Deus Ex games if they don't have a good reason to make Deus Ex games.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. Anyway, so unless you guys have anything else you want to add, I think that's going to do it for this episode.
Apparently, an ActRaiser game came out in September.
Yeah,
just popped up in my.
We talked about that last week. Yeah.
Oh, that's why I missed it. Okay, because I wasn't.
It looks like shit. Because like ActRaiser is good, but apparently it's not good at all to play.
It's mostly positive right now.
Really? Everything I heard about it was really negative.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's that thing going around this morning about that Dual Continent Chinese-made game that completely ripped off the Shadowbringers trailer. I don't know if you saw that.
That's funny. I
like 100% ripped it off. I'll send a link. I'll put a link in the show notes so people can look at it if they want. And there's a link for you guys. It's pretty blatant. Where can people find you, Allison?
Oh, people can follow me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY. Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me at PJC Plays, and I have toyed around with the idea of doing some streams of like some of these old MMOs that I'm currently infatuated with in my brain, to talk about some of the wild systems that they had. Not like extensive streams where I play each one for many hours, but like just quick hit tours. I may have downloaded Dark Age of Camelot at some point recently, and I think that they're pretty cool. So yeah, I don't know if that sounds interesting to you. Tell me.
Oh yeah, I think that's really interesting. So I would like that. Alex, where can people find you?
Attempting to not collapse with the Charlie horse.
Oh.
So I'm looking forward to standing up after recording this and seeing if I fall over or not.
Thanks. Well, you can follow us at Fixed Podcasts on Twitter. Please subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform of choice. And yeah, I think that'll do it for this week's podcast. Also check out
Tidums.
Send Tidums. Also check out Fix.space because there are written reviews on there as well.
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Gonna go look up some Tidums. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.